Wherever there's an episodic series, you can bet two men will talk to you. AJ Talon and Owen Finch give their thoughts on Owen and AJ Talks.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a return of a series. I'm Owen Finch, and I'm here with
AJ Talon, and today, we're here for a video we have not done in a long time. Did this character win or lose? We've done this for Ellen Light in Death Note. We've done it for Hank and Walt and Jesse in Breaking Bad. And now we're back once again for a character that we love in Yellow Jackets, our favorite character, Ben.
Yeah, I feel like, too, I'm happy to be doing this series again. We didn't mention it in the channel update video because we forgot towards the end. One thing we kind of want to try to do, this year is to try to do a lot more videos like this where it's just a commentary, not necessarily reviewing anything. Because I think they're fun because it's a nice change of pace for our videos. We did one last year, and I did say more, so even if we do one more this year, I'll be happy because, but we never really did this character win or lose because we're not far enough in any of the shows that we're covering or anything like that to really warn us doing it where the character has ended or the character's done pretty much. We have a couple more we can do because we've seen.
Yeah, even stuff like Breaking Bad, we have to do Better Call Saul. Well, I mean, we talked about it. We could do characters like Saul, Mike, and Gus. But, going over their characters in Better Call Saul would, add context.
Yeah, and then for this very show, again, there is characters we can do it with, but, Yellow Jackets themselves hasn't really developed the characters enough to really, other than this one, to really warrant it, because Molly dies this season, but again, I would just say go watch our season finale to kind of know why we're not going to do Molly, because we won't really explain it too much here. And then, if there's been some characters that died in the present, but again, because they're still alive in the past, we kind of have to see how that storyline kind of finishes it up. But Ben, as you know, we were originally going to end this off 2025 with Ben, because 2025 was really the year of Ben for us. Because I have a section for this, but I'll say it now. If you watch, how many Yellow Jackets videos did you say we did last year, AJ?
19.
I would say probably
20 if we're including the RVP comparison video.
Yeah, I would say probably maybe a good portion of those videos, we always sneak in a love for Ben probably in there somewhere, even if he's not in the episode.
A minute rant about why Ben is right and everybody should worship the ground I was going to say walks on, but the ground he hops on.
But I think I feel like we could do Ben because I think his story for the most part is actually finished. He has a start and he has a middle, he has a beginning, he has an ending. And I think too we've actually gotten to see him develop as a character. And I don't really think there's anything more they can really do with him except a flashback. But again, I think in season 4, if we see him in a flashback, I don't think it's going to have anything to do to build upon his character.
Anything else we get on him wouldn't really change our opinions on this, at least.
Well, we say
unless they we get another flashback where it's revealed he did burn the cabin down, but that seems unlikely. We're so beyond that it would be really weird to just do that randomly,
Yeah, but again, Yellow Jackets, they do random stuff sometimes, so
yeah. There are other characters. We do want to continue this series because it was one of our favorites that we talk about. I mentioned off camera to Owen, Chief Yagami and Matsuda are ones that we can do whenever, because obviously we kind of have finished Death Note. There's other little stuff in Death Note, but nothing that would change their characters.
Yeah.
Look forward to that this year. Hopefully, if we can get around to it. But yeah, I'm happy to do this about Ben.
And I'll say this too, if you want to know why we're not doing Jackie, because I know Jackie has technically a beginning, middle, and end. I think because Jackie affects Shauna's character, so that's why we're holding off on Jackie, because I think it depends on how Shauna's character ends, if Jackie's a win or a loss too.
Or if Yellow Jackets ends, we can do more win or loses, because obviously the show will be over, all the characters will be up. Yeah. But yeah, no, Ben is really the only character that we, one, care enough about to do this for, and two, that like their story's wrapped up at this. Because again, it's like we could do Mari and Javi, but like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know. Looking forward to doing this, and like I said, this will be our last Yellow Jackets video for a while. So yeah, get all of our Ben love out in the open.
There was one we could do, and it'd be really funny actually. Is Mr. Mustache? That would be a really funny one because that's like
good one. That is a good point. Yeah, we can do that one at some point.
And just don't even look up his name either. Just say, did Mr. Mustache win or lose?
Or lose, yeah.
But anyhow, let's get started with this.
Who has not a mustache but a beard, Mr. Beard himself, Ben. Yeah, let's get right into it by talking about in the first episode. It's funny, Ben, when we first start the show, is more of a background character. He's the assistant coach. He has a couple lines in episode 1, but he's kind of just there. Which makes sense. You know, episode 1 is more so introducing us to like the Yellow Jacket, like the team, you know, like the teenage girls. And then he's just kind of in the background, you know, we don't really get much on him.
And that makes sense because, like you said, it's introducing the team, and the first episode, they're still like in school and in society. That the plane crash hasn't happened yet, so you're only seeing like the show through their perspectives, and Ben wouldn't really obviously interact with them all that much and all that type of stuff.
Right.
It's interesting to mention. I'll say that again because you were breaking up there.
And I was going to say, I think that also ties well into the conflicts later on with Ben, where he's an outsider in a weird way. Like, everybody likes him, but he's not on the team. You know, he's the coach. He's the assistant coach.
Yeah.
That's a plot point Shauna brings up during the trial, is that he's not one of us. And that's something that Ben fears, is that he's not one of them, you know? So he worries he's on the chopping block.
Yeah. But yeah, this is pretty cool because... you know, it's also a nice change because the first episode like spent so much time focused in on Travis and Harvey's dad because he's like the head coach. You would think like he would be the one that's going to make it out, but then he ends up he kind of dies off screen sort of for the most part.
Well, he does because he's already dead when we see him in the tree.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's kind of cool that they did a character like that. And again, once the plane crash happens, this is before, you know, I have the next point. Ben is pretty well worse off. He's pretty banged up even before we find out that he loses his leg. So we don't really know if he's even going to make it out of that part of it or not. But you know, it's pretty cool to kind of watch Ben in episode 1. I feel like too, it's such a difference. I haven't gone back and watched him yet in episode 1 since season 3's happened, but even when I was watching it in season 2, because when I did before season 3 started, they released a video. I think I've sent you a few of these, AJ. I sent you this one specifically that showed like all of the Ben scenes, or at least all the big Ben scenes for the most part, and it's just such a night and day difference to watch like what his character becomes if you just watch the first episode.
Yeah,
and I think it's
but Owen, I guess we should dive into you know, because we get some flashbacks of Ben pre-plane crash, and you know, even beyond the plane crash, even beyond the flashbacks, we hear him talking about stuff like his relationship with his parents, his childhood, you know, and of course his like relationship with his lover Paul, and kind of where he was at mentally, because like you said, you know, he was a background character in episode 1. But we get a feel for where he was at mentally in episode 1, you know, and like where, you know, how he was doing. And to be honest, Owen, he wasn't doing too great.
Yeah.
Which is something you're going to hear a lot throughout the set video, unfortunately.
Yeah. You know, you don't get these, like you said, even the first season, but we're going to mention his background because, you know, it kind of helps build the character. You get these kind of sporadically in season 2, and then he talks about this a little bit in the trial in season 3, and then he talks some more about this in season 3. But you know, yeah, he wasn't doing too great in life, like pre-plane crash. We find out as a kid that you know, his parents really didn't pay much attention to him. He was kind of you know, one of many siblings, and he kind of got the shit end of the stick. I know if you watch one of our reviews, I thought his mom fostered kids, but we still don't know if it was kids or kittens. That would be kind of a cool like little if that's also.
But yeah, it would have been it would have been an extra little salt in the wound if it was kids. Yeah.
Yeah, but and I assume obviously too. I want to mention this because again, the show's set in the actual show itself is set in the '90s. His background, if I had to guess, the actor IOL is like 30, like in his 30s. I think Ben's supposed to be in his 30s in the show.
I think late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah. So he grew up at a time, even more so, because obviously you hear the struggles of this, where, because we find out that he's gay. He grew up even more so in a time where, obviously, being gay and Pride Month and all that type of stuff wasn't accepted and everything like that, because in the 80s, obviously, it's very frowned upon. So he was very closeted, obviously, in the 80s, just because of the culture and everything like that.
Right. And to be fair, there were people who were openly gay, and there were accepting people. However, as like you talked about, it sounds like Ben's family would not be the type of people to accept him. Even though it sounds like Ben was never open with his parents about his sexuality. They were already like kind of dismissive and like cold to him. So, you feel bad for Ben growing up. He likely felt that it would have turned even worse if he was more open with them.
And again, I said 80s. Like I said, if he's in his 30s, it would probably be 70s, actually, not even 80s. So,
yeah, I figured he was like 10 to 15 years older than the Yellow Jackets. So, yeah, probably like 80s, late 70s, maybe like mid 80s.
Yeah. And then, he talked about this. He did get to live somewhat of a normal childhood, though, so that's good at least. It didn't, like, completely ruin his childhood, because he mentions, like, he did normal kid things and everything like that. But then, obviously, we get to kind of shortly where he was before the show. Obviously, he didn't even really want to be a assistant coach. He didn't even want to be a teacher. We find out that he's just a substitute teacher. He obviously was just kind of doing that to kind of see, like, what the next thing would be in his life, whether that was become an athlete or whatever, but he was just kind of doing that. But obviously, you could kind of tell that I don't really think he had a next plan, because he had been teaching for a while. Like, it's not like he had just become the assistant coach or the substitute teacher. I think.
Yeah. Well, I think that ties into Ben's character well, where, as I mentioned, he mentions that his parents were not there for him emotionally, and that he he calls himself out on it during the trial, where he did what his parents did and ran away from like from their responsibilities. And Ben feels like he did the same thing, where he graduated college, and he said he became a substitute to like kind of pay off his loans, and then also pay the bills while he figured out what he wanted to do next. But like you said, he had been there for years, so it sounded like he was kind of putting off his future. And also his relationship with Paul, where Paul mentioned his previous boyfriends, and Ben mentioned that he didn't really have anything like that. So he was often running away from his relationships as well. His personal life and his like professional life were things that he kind of was always running away from.
Yeah. And then, you see this, like you said, with this relationship with Paul. Really cool. You got to actually see his background, because obviously in Yellow Jackets, they don't really, for the characters that we haven't really like seen, even some of the main characters, we don't really get to see much of their home lives other than the first episode. Really, we get some flashbacks to see.
We've had like 3 mentions of Van's mom, but like we have like not seen her at all.
Yeah,
and it's weird. We've gotten a pretty in-depth look at Ben's life.
But yeah,
even Shauna. We show like Shauna's parents, like no fucking mention of them, and she's like the main character.
Yeah. So yeah. We see that Ben. Obviously is in this relationship with Paul, and he's obviously really happy with Paul. But again, because of him being so closeted and everything like that, he's just too nervous to really like come out and like really show Paul off out and everything like that. And obviously, I think we should mention this too. Obviously, the actor talked about this, but obviously there was a big scandal like back in 1996 about like obviously being gay pretty much ruined your teaching career and everything like that. So obviously Ben was kind of feeling about that. So that's obviously why he didn't want to come out or anything like that. And that's why he was so hesitant about like wanting to move in with Paul and really like commit his life to like Paul and everything like that. And that's why he doesn't really mention and talk about like Paul much, like to the Yellow Jackets like group, anything like that. Like in season 1.
The only, besides Natalie and Misty, the only person he even like says he's gay to is Mari. So like 98.5% of the Yellow Jackets don't even like know he's gay.
Yeah, but even though once when Natalie finds out he's gay, though, like Natalie even asks, she mentions to Natalie that like he had a boyfriend, but he doesn't go into specifics of like why they broke up or anything like that because you could probably obviously tell
about Paul.
So I feel like to the biggest thing, and obviously we could do this someday for like a what if video is, and I really like that Yellow Jacket. So this was obviously once kind of Ben was out there long enough, and we'll get to it probably later on in the video. But there's a moment in time where Ben could have just quit his job at any point and just been with Paul and anything like that. Because obviously in one of the flashbacks, it ends up not being a flashback. It ends up just kind of being like a what if dream, like dream type of video where Ben could have seen what his life could have looked like if he decided to quit right before the plane crash happened. And it shows obviously that like he could have been with Paul and everything like that. And
well, yeah, we mentioned that they had a very good relationship, and like Paul was for the most part understanding and like supportive lover. But they ended up breaking up shortly before the plane crash because of Ben's like inability to like take the relationship to the next level. And like I said, where Ben kind of was running away and like putting off his responsibilities, because Paul was mentioning like, why don't you like quit your job and like that you don't like and like find something else that you like. Let's like move in together. And Ben kind of refused to take those like steps forward, and that's ultimately what caused them to break up, which is unfortunate because you can tell Ben, you can tell Paul didn't want to break up with Ben, but that he was just kind of fed up with the fact that like he's in a relationship that like isn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Then continue.
So again, I think it's sad that like. Unfortunately, like the best thing in Ben's life up to that point, he kind of ruined it by his own hand. And like again, it wasn't like malicious. I wouldn't even say it's Ben's like fault necessarily. But like the circumstances led Ben to like not. I wouldn't say not treating it seriously, but like he just I guess got cold feet and like he kind of ruined the only good thing in his life at that point.
I think so. Yeah, definitely. So then we kind of.
However. Yeah, go ahead.
And I feel like too, it's a really sad loss. Because again, I haven't watched this scene back. It's really sad watching the scene back where like we get that daydream, and you get to see like there was scenes afterwards where like Ben got kind of that what if point of view, and it's obviously really sad knowing how Ben's life ends in the end, like watching those scenes back and everything like that type of thing.
Yeah.
Then
I wanted to. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to move on to, obviously, plane crash stuff, but anything else pre his life you want to mention?
Yeah, so his childhood I would consider a loss due to his, like, pretty neglectful parents. And, like, his college and early teaching years, because, he seemed pretty, like, lost and unsure of what to do with himself. His only win I would consider, I guess, the time he was dating Paul before the plane crash. Because he did seem like it was a fairly happy relationship. And, Paul was, for the most part, very understanding of Ben. And it was really the only time we could see Ben be himself. And although we say that Ben hated his teaching job, I wouldn't say he hated it. I think he was unfulfilled, but I think he did enjoy himself, and he just wouldn't fully admit it. Because during the trial, he says that, like, he did care about the Yellow Jackets. He bonded with them. He would cover for them in situations. He was kind of like the cool uncle/older brother figure to the team. And I think that was therapeutic for him in a way because, even though he couldn't be open with himself, he could kind of be there for them in the way his parents couldn't be there for them, like he said during the trial. So I would consider the top 4 before the plane crash a win overall. Because even though he wasn't super happy with his teaching job, he seemed like happy being a coach, even if he wouldn't fully admit it. And he was in a happy relationship with Paul. But once him and Paul break up, and he seemed pretty depressed because he was going to go to the Canada with the team and kind of go through a hot boy summer, if you will, and just kind of have a bunch of sex to try to get over the breakup. But like before that point, I would consider his life overall a win.
Yeah, I would say his childhood's a loss because but not a complete loss. I would say he still got to have a normal childhood and everything like that. But again, he didn't really have a good relationship with his parents. I would say right before the plane crash, I would consider it overall a win because he's in the teacher job he doesn't love. I would kind of say that like it's kind of like how I feel about my job for the most part, where I don't necessarily hate my job, but I like it. It's something for now, which I think what Ben was thinking. But I don't think he went in hating his job or anything like that type of thing. He liked looking out for the kids because of him being a teacher. He got to, like you said, look after kids, even though and do something that his parents could never do for him. And he was in a really seemed like good relationship with Paul. It sucks it ends.
And the thing is, like, plane crash didn't happen. I think and they like went to the finals and they came back. I think Ben, one of two things. I think Ben would have been able to kind of learn from that breakup and like found happiness with somebody else, or he would have realized how much Paul meant to him, and they maybe would have been able to like mend things. I think overall, if the plane crash didn't happen, Ben would have been okay. I think he would have learned to kind of move beyond his fear of like commitment.
Yeah, I think the latter. I honestly think, because he was kind of using nationals as an excuse. I think nationals would have happened. He would have gone through like some type of reflection. Maybe have, like you said, a hot boy summer. And like, obviously I make this joke, like a 2.5 minute where like some of the relationships that Charlie ends up being in, he ends up finding out he is not fulfilled. So he goes into a relationship he actually likes being in. If Ben would have had a bunch of a hot boy summer, a bunch of one night stands, and then like kind of been like, okay, this isn't really me, I'm not really fulfilled doing this. He would have come back from, he would have come back in like 1996, and then probably,
that like he would have came back to 1990, fucking like he goes to finals, he comes back in like 2008.
Yeah,
but fucking.
But yeah, he would have come back home and maybe like realized like, hey, I want to be with Paul type of thing. He would have, I think he would have quit the job and then probably been with Paul. And then, I mean, obviously this is way down the line. And then overall, he would have gotten to see like the world improved when it came to like the LGBT community. And he would have been like really thankful. Honestly, maybe he'd be a spokesperson, about all that type of stuff and talk about like his experiences and all that type of stuff.
It's funny because I do. In middle school, they had like a gay man come to the school as a speaker to like talk about his experience, which is funny because I was in that weird middle area where like it was kind of like looked down upon when I was a kid, but like by the time I got to high school, being gay was cool. Like fucking a ton of people I knew were like gay, like it was not like unnormal anymore.
Yeah, so
you had like like weird about it, but like who gave a shit,
Yeah. Also kind of strange because you live in, I mean, there's obviously getting political, but you also live in Florida. I don't think you live in the south part of Florida.
Yeah. Florida too, which is like a more southern state. So like they live in like I don't know how Jersey is actually with like all that stuff. But, like I assume more up north and like less city areas are like a bit better about it.
Yeah. So I think overall, Ben could have had a win. But yeah, kind of going through. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen, Ben, but overall, I would say Ben's kind of I would say Ben's in between. I wouldn't really say he's winning or losing right now. I think emotionally he's losing, but overall, it's probably a win, I would say. Because, he's still dealing with the breakup with Paul.
like, it is, it's kind of, I guess what ifs don't really matter. But like, I think if the plane crash didn't happen, he would have been at a win overall.
Yeah. So yeah,
Crash did happen.
yeah, unfortunately, and he was on the plane, because obviously, because it still happens in that dream. It's just he's not.
Yeah, I do love that in Ben's like fantasy where he gets back together with Paul. Is like the plane crash happens, so like everybody else is still out in the woods eating each other. He's just not there. He doesn't give a fuck.
Right. So kind of going through obviously the plane crash. Obviously Ben this ended up losing his leg during the plane crash. Obviously,
because again, the showed that Ben was too powerful. He had to nerf him.
Yeah. And he only nerfed him really, if you think about it, for like what, half a season, I think.
Yeah, and Ben was right back on his A game.
Maybe two.
So this is like fuck, competent.
No, maybe 2 episodes. Because like episode 2, he's out of commission. Episode 3, he has that breakdown, and then episode 4, he's teaching them to hunt. So really, only 2 fucking episodes he's out of commission.
Yeah. If Ben had both his legs, he would have gotten them out of the woods in like 5 minutes.
Probably. And not near
the wood had to do what it had to do.
And then not near BS of
Yeah, right. Ben would have been the absolute giga chat. He would have figured out the perfect way to get them out of there, and it would have made complete sense.
I feel like and then it's so funny at the end, even the wilderness ends up liking fucking Ben at the end. Like, he respected his power type of thing.
I know. Like, Ben dies. Well, this is like, fuck you all. You don't get to go home.
Yeah. I'm going to send these people over here now to because you killed Ben. But anyhow, so, Ben lost his leg. And, he doesn't even know he loses his leg, like, straight away, obviously. Because obviously he's out of commit.
Yeah, he doesn't, like, fully lose it yet.
Yeah. And then Misty chops it off, and then, obviously, he's still, like, out of it. So then, he, obviously, he's very drowsy in the beginning. Doesn't really come to terms with it yet, but obviously, he was kind of at the point where I think he was fine dying because he didn't want to be a burden with anyone. Like, when they have an opportunity to go to the lake before the cabin, Ben even like says like, "Look, I'll just stay here. Like, there's no reason you guys should have to like carry me." And it's kind of interesting to see that like they didn't want to kill Ben at that point. They were willing to like actually carry him. They made like a little like
really been out there for a little bit,
Yeah.
And they did, which is nice.
I just say that based on season 3 mainly because obviously that's a contrast.
Oh yeah. Changes, yeah. But yeah, I do like this about Ben. Well, I don't like, this is definitely a loss for him overall, where he is just so done with his life. Obviously, because losing his leg is so traumatic. Because like, unfortunately, at this point, like if they all got rescued in the next like week or two, nothing would really change for them. They're all doing pretty okay. Obviously, the only ones who would really be at like a major loss would be Javi and Travis because they lost their father. But everybody else was doing pretty okay overall. But Ben, obviously, even if they got back to society, his life is like changed forever. He's lost a leg. He's never gonna be the same. So I can definitely see him. Like I can understand why he's like just thinking his life is over. Owen, what do you think on everything I just said?
Oh yeah, everything you said is I totally was here the whole time. I just faded.
Owen, that was. I mean, I literally just said, Owen, what do you think about what I just said? And then you responded like you heard me.
Oh, yeah. Well, I could hear you on the headphones. So.
Oh, okay. I thought you actually just didn't hear anything I said.
Well, I went to grab my charger, so.
But yeah, the recap, I was just saying, I feel bad. You feel bad for Ben here because at this point, like early on in season 1, everybody, if they all got rescued, they'd be fine. Like the only ones who, they could go back to life, could go back to normal pretty easily. Because Shauna could get back and get that abortion. Nobody else really lost anybody close to them except for Javi and Travis. Like they'd really be the only ones besides Ben who would like have their life really changed by the plane crash. because like obviously Ben, like his life would. I can understand why he thinks his life is over because even if he gets back to society, like his life has changed forever.
Yeah, he could probably get like a prosthetic leg or like a
Like, but like obviously it wouldn't be the same.
yeah. And he would have gone through a traumatic experience. He would be the only one other than like maybe like Travis and Harvey that would have like PTSD.
Yeah, but everybody else I think would be like they could get back and they'd be like fine overall.
Yeah. Really feel bad for Ben here. He would have gone through like a really traumatic experience. His life wouldn't really be the same after this. Yeah, continuing with all of this, the big moment of him losing his leg, obviously, is very dependent on Misty. So maybe Misty being out there ended up being kind of a win for him. Because obviously, again, Misty knew to cut his leg off, I should say that. And I guess if she didn't cut his leg off, he probably would have died from the infection that his leg had, from the injuries and everything like that. So she knew it. So she was able to kind of be his caretaker. Obviously, I have that in a later section. But obviously, I think he's obviously just feeling that it's a loss because he can't really do anything for himself. A big moment in the show, kind of, is obviously when they're all at the cabin. This is his breakdown. You just see like bugs because the wound's still newly fresh. Bugs are going after his it's not his leg, but whatever the bone is that like connect. Huh?
His like stump.
Yeah, his wound. I guess his wound. I should have called it. A really good breakdown happens where like he falls to the ground and just gets frustrated, about the fact that like he can't do anything for himself. This is a really good breakdown by Ben, because he can't even pick himself up from the ground. He can't even like, get rid of the bugs or anything like that. He's just so dependent on everyone and just can't do anything for himself. And he's just so upset that he's just stuck. And like even says like, is this just what my life is gonna be now? Type of thing. Like, why couldn't I have just died in the plane crash? Type of thing. And this kind of ends up being like a lot of mixed emotions you get with Ben, where like he's not really you'll get kind of him not really being either you'll get moments where he doesn't want to be alive. You get moments where he's living. And I think that's a really cool cycle that Ben kind of goes through. This ends up kind of being his journey throughout the whole show that he's on anyways and everything like that. And, obviously Misty comforts him, Misty kind of tries to make him feel like that he's important. Like, we really need you. We need your guidance and everything like that. And obviously we'll get to, that's kind of a loss in a way, but obviously Misty comforted him. Is a win, but yeah, I think Ben losing his leg is like kind of the first. I think at this moment he's kind of at a loss right now. It changes his whole life. He pretty much is at a point where he can't do anything for himself. And like I said, whether they get rescued or not, his life has changed forever. And he's probably gonna have some PTSD from this experience if they were to get rescued right now. But yeah, I think that breakdown scene's just really sad and just sad to see what Ben is at in life and everything like that. I think this was a scene beforehand. He can't even go to like the bathroom or anything like that by himself because he didn't have the crutches yet or anything like that type of thing. So I think Misty had to like hold him up and everything like that. So it's just really sad to see Ben like in this state and all that type of stuff. His breakdown scene. Anything more you want to say about that? And what do you think Ben is in life?
But I guess, like, because obviously his relationship with Misty is, it's debatable if you want to consider it positive or negative. But I would say this is kind of like the biggest positive of their relationship because Ben was truly at his lowest, and it was actually Misty who kind of brought him up out of this. Because, like you said, in like the next episode, he's kind of helping everybody, like, hunt, and like he's kind of like the leader of the group, being the only adult, which we're going to get into later. So it is a positive overall that like the team and Misty especially cared enough about him to kind of pick him back up.
So which one do you want to take? Do you want to take the Misty relationship or the Natalie one? We didn't really talk about this off camera. Do you want me to take the Misty one and you take the Natalie? Because I know you like the relationship between Natalie and Ben. You want me to take the Misty one? So the Misty relationship obviously was a big thing that was built up through. It was mainly a season 1 thing. Obviously, it's expanded upon, but season 1 is where it gets the main focus. Obviously, like we said, it makes sense because obviously Misty was the only one that really knew how to take care of them, so they obviously shared a lot of time together. I kind of talked about Misty being his caretaker already, but again, this ends up kind of helping him out. She's the only one that really knows how to take care of him. But unfortunately, this kind of ends up being a loss for Ben. Because obviously, if we ever do a Misty video, but we'll kind of keep it short. Obviously, because this kind of goes with Misty's character, because obviously Misty feels powerful being like the caretaker for everybody. She was the one that was kind of taking care of everybody after the plane crash, which is what leads to her destroying the transponder. And the fact that she's the only one able to take care of Ben really makes her feel powerful. And obviously this kind of end up being a loss for Ben because of course it's the one person that ends up being the biggest psycho and really didn't have a lot of friendships or anything like that. And
yeah, Misty ends up developing romantic feelings for Ben and is really creepy about it, basically forcing herself on him multiple times.
Yeah, there's a big moment I feel like you kind of forgot about. It's at the end of the hunting episode where I think Ben's walking with his crutches, and obviously Misty is making it so that way Ben she trips Ben at one point, so she has to help pick him up and everything like that type of thing. But then obviously a big moment obviously is the relationship where he has to fake to be in a relationship with her. Because at one point she ends up poisoning him, and no one really no one knew about it because obviously everyone thought it had to do with because they were doing the seance and everything like that. So everyone kind of thought it was just a part of that. Not Ben because he's too good for that type of shit. So he knows what's going on.
Although he was doing the seance, Misty poisoned his drink, which he picked up on right away.
Yeah. I mentioned that.
Ben is very intelligent. He's able to pick up. He picked up right away that Misty did something to his drink.
Yeah, and this ends up kind of being a loss for him because obviously he confronts Misty about it, but obviously obviously this ends up being a loss because he has to kind of put himself into position. This is his caretaker and everything like that, and she poisoned his drink I think to try to get close to him and everything like that. So he doesn't want to scorn the one person that could take care of him. And obviously again, if she's poisoned his drink because she has a crush on him and everything like that, what the hell would she do if she wanted him dead and all that type of stuff is what he's thinking. So obviously a loss kind of here is he has to fake a relationship with Misty. Obviously keep it a secret from the others and everything like that. This is before you even find out he's gay, but obviously you know that it's bullshit and everything like that. The relationship does continue. We could talk about obviously it ends up falling apart horribly. Because Misty was gonna drug Ben. Again, we talked about it in that episode. Ben was probably gonna get really fucked up because I think she was gonna give Ben all of the fucking shrooms because don't forget they all get put into that soup or whatever.
Yeah, that probably would have fucking made Ben overdose or some shit. And also remember as soon as they all got fucked up, Misty was looking for Ben and tried to pounce on him. So Misty probably would have fucking raped Ben.
Yeah. So then obviously that kind of leads to Doom coming, and everyone getting drugged out. That kind of ends up being a win though, Ben getting drugged out because because
Travis and shit, and then Ben kind of has a pretty therapeutic conversation.
Yeah, which we'll kind of get into more so with the Natalie stuff. But his relationship with Misty, I think at the end of it's kind of a win. We'll kind of get
I was gonna say it was kind of a loss for him to try and fake this relationship, but as soon as he kind of pushed her off and he admitted he's gay to her, the relationship actually kind of improved. Misty kind of backed off,
Yeah. I think this relationship ended up kind of becoming a win for him and everything like that type of thing because they were able once it starts off as a loss because again faking this relationship ended up being a huge mistake because obviously it leads to Doom coming, but it ended up being good for him because he got to have a therapeutic conversation and And then, you know, his relationship with Misty's really built upon nicely, and they end up kind of having like a nice little friendship. And it ended up being someone that he was able to look out for her, but she kind of looked out for him like throughout the show and everything like that. When it came to like his suicide. I mean, I know again she was. I know she was. She wasn't looking out for him because she was doing her own thing. But you know, she looked out for him before his suicide. Obviously, she was his defender in the trial. And then obviously like the last scene that they have together and everything like that. So the relationship, I think, is kind of a win. You know, for Ben and everything like that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know. Yeah, she does like help him out, and I think Ben does appreciate that. You know, because like one of their last conversations was Misty apologizing to him, and Ben basically saying like, "I know you did everything you could." Although you know, their actual last conversation, Misty's part of the group that like force feeds Ben. So like, you know, again, I don't know if I would consider it a win overall. I think Ben appreciated that Misty was one of the only people who actually cared about him out there. But at the same time, it's pretty sad. Like, you know, when Misty walks off and Ben just kind of says, okay, bye, Misty. Like, it's kind of sad. Like, you know, what Ben said about he's going to be remembered as some psycho who tried to kill a bunch of teenagers. I think Ben is sad that, like, basically one of the only people who's actually going to, like, give a shit about him is Misty, who he, like, thinks is kind of psycho.
Yeah. I can see that, yeah. But yeah, let's get to
like but like I don't know. I think Ben realizes that like it's kind of sad that like one of the only people that cares about him is Misty.
Yeah, so it's a win, but somewhat of a loss because again, Misty ends up being a psycho and everything like that type of thing. So,
but I would consider a win overall is relationship with Natalie, which it's funny for the majority of season one. They don't talk really like much at all. He kind of has her back a little bit during the hunting thing. You know, Travis gets pissed off at Natalie and like points the gun at her, and Ben is kind of the one to diffuse the situation, calm it down, showing at the time that they did have respect for him. And he was kind of relationship counselor a little bit. He kind of pulled Travis aside, gave him a little bit of advice, and gave him all the condoms he had.
Yeah.
To kind of be like, hey, listen, you and Natalie have a thing. I'm not going to say you can't, just like be safe because you know you don't be having a kid out here.
I feel like too. He had Natalie's back in like the gun thing because they had to like balance the quarter or whatever. And obviously Natalie didn't do it right, but when he saw like Natalie like got into a position like got motivated because Travis mentions her comment, he's like, no, I'm gonna let her go again because I feel like she has this now type of thing, you know, because everyone was only supposed to go like once, so like he kind of has Natalie's back in that moment too type of thing.
Yeah, and also I remember he kind of pulled Travis and Natalie aside and he leveled with them a bit, like, listen, rescue might not be coming anytime soon, you know, because before that he was trying to keep morale up in the group, but Ben kind of leveled with Natalie and Travis to be like, listen, you guys are our hunters. You got to work together. Like, you're going to keep the group alive. So I think, you know, Natalie appreciated that Ben was kind of, again, like you said, having her back a bit, like trusting her. And that also, he kept things real, you know?
Yeah.
And when we get to their Doom coming talk, Natalie, kind of like how Ben was giving Travis relationship advice, Natalie was kind of the one to go to Ben to talk about their relationship. You know, which says a lot because Natalie was kind of a loner. You know, she didn't really get along well with the other Yellow Jackets as much as everybody else did. And obviously, her relationship with her parents, it seemed like she didn't have a lot of good adult figures in her life. So for her to like go to Ben with her like relationship worries, it says a lot about her trust in him. Especially because, as we find out here, Natalie's like the only person who knows that Ben is gay. And she figured that out because he's like the only coach who wasn't like creeping on the girls. Like he wasn't staring at them in the locker room.
Yeah. I think too, you mentioned also something I want to mention is, which I think is pretty cool. I think the reason they have such like this great bond is because they're like, outsiders to the group, because obviously Ben's the outsider because he's the, the adult in the room and everything like that. Doesn't really associate with these girls. But obviously, as you saw, Natalie was a very big outsider. Like socially, she didn't really like hang out with anyone in the group. Like if you remember in episode 1, she's mainly just hanging out with Kevin and the other guy.
That other.
That hey, might be
Maybe that was Mr. Right with the mustache.
I like that. And then that'd be cool actually. And then obviously
I want that.
Huh?
I want that prequel show, Mr. No Mustache, and his journey. We get Jimmy becoming Saul. We get Walt becoming Heisenberg. We get Anakin becoming Vader. I want Mr. No Mustache becoming Mr. Mustache.
And you know what has to happen at the end? He's got to do really well, and then the last fucking episode, the last scene of the fucking show, he gets fucked over type of thing in the prequel too.
Always.
But anyhow, no. But it's really cool. To see that they were both kind of loners, because like I said, Ben was a loner, and then Natalie really didn't associate with anyone like outside the group. And again, both kind of had, I wouldn't say tragic childhood, because like Ben. Like, yeah, he said his parents were never there for them, but I feel like... Uh-oh. You froze on my end.
What? I said Natalie's was definitely more traumatic than Ben's.
Yeah, but I feel like, they probably both have this feeling that the parents, like, don't have their backs. So that's why the relationship is so cool.
Yeah. Her dad doesn't even have his head.
And Ben doesn't have a leg, so...
There you go. A match made in heaven. Ben, I want Ben to get together with Natalie's dad.
And then when we get that phone on the show, we have to have Ash there with the chainsaw hand.
Yep. He's the cool uncle.
Oh, don't forget, we gotta get Luke Skywalker, because he's got like a prosthetic hand kind of now and everything. So
yeah, the missing limbs club. There you go.
And then Vader, like, I mean, he's not missing anything, but he's got like
No, like limbs.
So yeah, you have Vader in there too.
Yeah, no, he again, that's that table scene. We would be honored if you would join us, Ben, to the missing limb club.
And then Nick Fury, because the eye patch, right? Doesn't he have an eye patch?
Yep, there you go.
Look at me, I just made it a bit.
He can join.
I just made it. I was
gonna say I'm a reference. There you go. You know what? We get white Nick Fury and black Nick Fury in there.
Well, I was doing black Nick Fury because I have Avengers. So.
Oh yeah, that's the one. But yeah, there's.
I'm trying to think if there's anybody else we can do like with limbs.
Limbs.
Trying to.
You know what? We get. Members, the kids, the skater kids from Better Call Saul, the one who Tuco breaks their legs. They're part-time members.
Oh, what about doesn't like Rick lose his limbs like a bunch of times in fucking Rick and Morty, like a bunch, and so he has to like rebuild?
Oh yeah. Well, again, part-time member, part-time.
When is he not a member when they reattach his limbs?
Yeah. He gets his card revoked when he gets his limbs back.
So there you go.
Every time he loses a limb, back his card.
Chucky from the Child's Play series is a part-time member because he loses his limbs sometimes. So,
cool.
I can add him in there. There's a wrestler named Rey Mysterio who I think was supposed to lose an eye at one point. I know AJ, you don't understand that, but yeah, that's.
Okay, so again, they were about to give him his card, and then he didn't lose his eye, so they get back.
Yeah.
York, he lost his eye in Red vs. Blue. He's part of the club.
Yeah, he's part of the club. Trying to think of anybody else. We're not really doing anything, there's probably other people, so just not really,
I mean, yeah, Finn loses his arm. He joins the club.
Who?
Adventure Time, Finn.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
SpongeBob's a part-time.
Ben
SpongeBob's a part-time member, but he's lost his arm a few times.
Yeah, he was ripping his arm off to show Scooby. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, but he doesn't exist. But the Haslin and Slasher, can we add him? But he doesn't exist. So how does that work?
They left an empty seat for him, in case he ever becomes real.
Okay.
They always have an empty corner.
What about the guy that was like they thought was the Hassler and Sloucher, but then he was like a random dude?
He showed up to one meeting and then they kicked him out
because it wasn't him.
Yeah, they thought it was him. He's like, "Oh, we thought your name was on the list. No, sorry, buddy, you gotta go."
No, this isn't a limb, but what about because there's an episode of SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs like loses his shell? Does that count as a limb or not really? Like when he
he applied to get in. They didn't let him in.
What if he has?
Oh, the My Leg guy. He's a founding member.
That's true. Well, can Mr. Krabs be in it when he doesn't have a shell?
Again, he's applying. They're reviewing his application.
Yeah. Squidward's probably lost a few limbs.
4 to 5 business days.
Squidward's probably lost a few limbs, right? He's probably lost a few.
Of course. I remember he fucking blew up that one time. I think he blew up. He blew up several times, actually.
Plankton's probably in this group too. Then he's blown up a lot.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? That's a separate club. The getting blown up club is separate from the. They're like sister clubs.
Okay. I think that's everyone we can do right now.
Yeah. Anyway, we should probably get back to Ben Winterluce.
But anyhow, so continue with his relationship with Natalie that we was supposed to be the big talking point here, and we
went into a side tangent on who joins the fucking missing limb club. Not even limb, just missing body part club.
There's someone I know that there's someone, by the way, I just thought of that I think could join, but I don't. That's for an off-camera person.
Okay. I was about to say, is it somebody I know?
Oh, I'm just saying, like, yeah, it is. I just mentioned it off camera.
Okay. And then, fuck, where was I at? Because I was about to say, I was like, who the fuck are you talking about? Once you say it, I'll probably know. But I was like, who the fuck do we know that's missing a body part?
Well, I'd say potentially could be on there. So.
Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah, Natalie and Ben have. It shows that Natalie trusts Ben a lot to kind of open up to him about her relationship with Travis. And like it's kind of even though it's not really Ben who comes out, it's more Natalie already knew. It is kind of therapeutic for Ben to have somebody who he can confide in. And like you said, even though he doesn't really go into detail, it's probably nice for him to at least mention Paul to somebody else.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is kind of the start of their trusting relationship, because going into season 2, in the months following the end of season 1, they're kind of working together. They're like the only fucking people actually trying to make some progress there. Natalie and Travis are going out every day hunting, or trying to hunt. And while they're going out, they're mapping out the area, and Ben is coordinating with Natalie, since he can't really go out himself, try to get a layout of the area. So that's good. Because again, fucking Maury wants to fucking call out Natalie and Ben for not doing shit. And I remember that whole episode. I was like, Maury, you could shut your fucking mouth. They are the only people doing anything while you all sit on your asses.
Yeah, and they're able to kind of like have a heart-to-heart too. Like that's just because this is when Harvey goes missing, and obviously like they're being realistic about if Harvey will even get like found at some points. But then they're trying not to get like talk to Travis about it because they don't want to like upset him, type of thing. So
yeah. And I also think it's nice because I remember what I was going to say earlier. Kind of halfway through season 1 is when we get to start to see Ben lose his like not leadership position, but like his respect, because Bible Girl takes the plane, like even though he consistently says he's against it, and then when he tries to break up Shauna and Jackie's fight, Lottie shuts him up, and like nobody really listens to him. So at the end of season 1 and going to season 2, Natalie's really one of the only people to actually like still respect Ben. Yeah, and then
yeah, and it kind of goes along, you know.
What's up?
As we get into it, we'll get into it later. But the main reason for that is because in season 2, there's that divide where some people have bought into the cult stuff and some people haven't. But Natalie hardcore hasn't, so they're able to bond like over that type of thing, and they have strong.
body's like religious stuff. Yeah.
Um,
And then what was I gonna say? Shit. Oh yeah, right. When they all eat Jackie, Ben obviously kind of breaks away from the group a little bit because he's the only one who doesn't participate. Aside from Javi, I guess, because he wasn't there. Because he's like never there. And you could tell Ben's kind of on the outside of the group after that. Like Travis tries to talk to him during like the baby shower thing, and Ben just kind of ignores him. And you could tell Ben's like fearing for his life a little bit. He thinks he's kind of next on the list.
yeah.
But like he is the only one he still kind of has that respect for. Because when he ends up finding Javi's like hideout, he tries to get Natalie to come with him, saying that like Natalie's the only one who's like not like all these other girls. Like she's like not like a psycho.
Yeah, that was really interesting and everything like that. I am curious if you would have brought Travis with him, because I think Travis had some faults and everything like that. But I'm wondering if he had seen Travis also, if you would have let Travis like go with him.
Right. But at that point, Ben didn't even know they hunted Javi. Like they didn't know they did all that.
Yeah.
So like it seems like that's how he feels like after they eat Jackie. Like that's how he feels for the rest of the season.
I feel like he wouldn't have asked Travis just because he was kind of starting to. Because I forgot fucking season 2, he was buying into the cult shit, so he might not have had Travis go with him and everything like that.
Right. Yeah.
But maybe like maybe they would have had Travis go with him and like try to, maybe not talk him out of it, but.
Yeah, that's kind of a fault with the show where I would have really liked Travis and Ben to have more scenes together. So like the only two guys out there, so I think it would have been nice to have them bond a little bit.
Yeah,
because they did have like they had it seemed like they were setting that up in season 1, where like Ben was kind of mentoring Travis a little bit.
Yeah, they didn't do anything.
It also would have been Dad was the coach, and then Ben being the assistant coach. It would have been nice for Ben to kind of step up and be like a replacement father figure. But yeah, like I said, unfortunately, we didn't really get much of that.
That's one of the many unfortunate things of season 2 is really dropping the ball on shit that's season 1 stuff set up. I think what makes this, the Javi scene really sad is obviously this is after they hunted Javi, and obviously Natalie felt guilt over Javi dying because he died trying to save her and everything like that. Then she didn't save him when it was time, type of thing, because she would have gone hunted. I really like.
But I will say, sorry, go ahead.
It was really sad because Natalie doesn't buy in, but obviously because she's feeling sad about what happened to Javi, she's like, "Look, I let him die in my place. Like I'm worse than these girls and everything like that." And like, it kind of seems like she's buying in a little bit. So Travis gets like upset because one, he ended up, his fears ended up coming true. She was becoming like them, and then he was sad to see her talk this way. So this was kind of like a little bit of like the fall apart of this relationship and everything like that. And this was just really sad. And I think what made this a real positive is throughout that episode specifically in that season, they were trying to get like the characters to talk and build a relationship. Well, none of them really were. Like obviously that same episode, they tried to have like Van be the one to like talk to Travis about eating his brother when they hadn't had any scenes together. But this was like the one that actually like mattered because we had seen Travis and Natalie have like a few scenes together and everything like that. Because Ben kind of finds out about the cave kind of through Natalie, because they were having a conversation about like the drawings or whatever, like type of thing.
Right, so I was gonna save this for after we finish up the Natalie section, but we'll kind of talk about like Ben being the only one who actually makes some progress in season 2. But yeah, we'll get into that after. But yeah, after season 2, it kind of ends with Ben splitting off from the rest of the group. The fire happens, and again, I thought it was like confirmed that Ben burned the cabin down, and then you told me that like it was left ambiguous. Yeah, going into season 3, we never get a definitive answer, but like it seems like it's like 99.9% confirmed that Ben wasn't the one who burned the cabin down.
Yeah, but overall, I would consider, at least at the point we are on the show now, I would consider the Natalie relationship like a definite like win for Ben type of thing.
Yeah, overall, kind of had that break at where Natalie refused to go with Ben, But like Natalie still had a lot of respect for Ben. Natalie basically said like, "No, Ben, you should go because like you're the only good person left, essentially."
Yeah.
And in season 3, when everyone wants to, fuck, hang on, let me close my window.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. That will be I think that's not necessarily a section, but we'll be talking about Ben being the only true good person in a later section. But yeah, continue with your thoughts.
Yeah. So yeah, Natalie, and then going into season 3, when everyone wants to like manhunt Ben, Natalie kind of leaves it alone. Like she tries to steer everybody away. So even though they kind of had like a break in the relationship, Natalie still cared about Ben a lot, even though she tried to say she didn't. And with Ben and Natalie, like even though he, kind of like was upset that Natalie was vague on what happened with Javi. But like, he was hurt that it seemed like Natalie was killed Javi. I think he still cared about her. Like, it seemed like he didn't want to hurt any of the other Chickens girls. He just wanted his own thing. So yeah. Overall, at the end of season 2, I consider the relationship a win overall.
Yeah, then I'll take the next section. Again, not necessarily in order, but I kind of want to mention being the adults. Because originally, in season 1, when they leave Ben alive, I think a lot of people probably interpretation was just so they could have an adult like with the group. It would be kind of weird to not have to, because I understand the thought process on it. It would be kind of weird. Obviously, from the get-go, they were all just by themselves randomly the whole time. At least I think they were probably thinking like, hey, let's have some adult figure out there. So originally, I think when Ben was left alive originally, they probably wanted just to have an adult like with them. So yeah, you get to see some moments where he's actually having the getting to be the adults. And when he's the one that ends up teaching the group to hunt. Obviously, like we said, he ends up running everyone kind of through trials and how to use the shotgun and everything like that. And he's kind of telling Travis and Natalie like how to hunt and everything like that when it gets to that point. These are kind of the wins from it and everything like that. And because he's there, he ends up teaching the group to hunt. This ends up like, extending their lives for the most part.
And I think this is important for Ben as well, that like he's helping them. Like I said, I think Ben was like what made his teaching job like bearable for him was that like he could be there for the kids. And I think, Ben would have still been horribly depressed about his leg. But, like, when Misty said, like, hey, we still need you. And that Ben, like, stepping up to kind of lead the group a little bit was able to, like, give him a purpose and, like, keep his mind off of, like, depression.
Yeah. Same thing with Travis. When he sits down with Travis and has that talk about him and Natalie's relationship, he's helping that relationship stay in a positive light and everything like that, and kind of teaching them like, hey, like don't take things like too far type of thing. Like, you guys are still new to the wilderness, and if you are gonna have sex, like do it safely, because again, we don't want to have to raise like a kid out there and everything like that. So he's kind of. And, he's kind of helping Travis and he's helping Travis and Natalie, like, through their relationship and everything like that, by having conversations. He doesn't take Natalie's side for the most part. Because the reason that Natalie even ends up talking with Ben about, like, him being gay is she thought Travis was gay because that's why they weren't really able to have sex successfully. But she kind of like now he's really like, no, like sometimes that tough stuff happens and everything like that. So he gets to be kind of a positive influence. I
meant whole the Ben's purpose thing. Well, to make a comparison, Owen probably wouldn't get this. I've been playing the Yakuza games, and a big part of that is like the main character is like kind of protecting and looking after a group of kids and like watching them grow up. And at a certain point, he gets like separated and he can't see the kids for years. And he sees like a video of them like growing up without him. And he kind of breaks down crying for the first time in like the series. And he talks about how, he thought that he was like looking up for them. But he realized now that like he can't see them, that like in a way he needed them more than like they needed him. And I think that's kind of why I wanted to bring that up with Ben. That, like, you know, Ben helping them out. I legitimately think Ben would have killed himself in season 1. And, you know, if you've made it to that point in season 2, 100% would have done it in season 2.
Yeah.
But, you know, unfortunately, when we get to season 3, that might have been the best call for him. But, like, I legitimately think that, like, Ben being there for the Yellow Jackets was, like, more important for him than it was to the Yellow Jackets in a way. And it's because of that them losing that respect for him and, like, them not needing him at a certain point and, like, not respecting him anymore, like, that's what made that, like, hurt more for him. Is that, like, that was, like, the only thing he had in his life.
Yeah,
because obviously, his life was never going to be the same when he got back home. Like, him being there for the kids was, like, kind of all he had.
And then, you know, like, I put, like, Javi, obviously, when he comes back from wherever he went, and actually, like, left storyline purposes, you know, Ben was the only one that he, like, spoke to, you know, and that was obviously interesting, kind of shows that, like, Ben, Javi trusted Ben enough to, like, talk to him about wherever he was and everything like that. I kind of think that's a little bit of a win. Kind of shows that Ben had that trust in Javi and everything like that. Unfortunately, we can't really say if it's definitely a win because they fucking kill Javi off so fast. We don't really know what the fuck he's talking about and everything like that. It'd be better if he actually, like, knew. But I think the fact that, like, he talked to Ben...
She told me not to come back. We never fucking figure out what the fuck he meant by that.
Yeah. But, yeah, I feel like the wins is, like, Ben being able to look after these kids, and these are the moments where it is. And again, it's, like you said, it's keeping him, making his life worth living, at least in his mind and everything like that. And unfortunately, there was some losses when it comes to that by being the adult because he starts to lose his authority. And there's certain moments where that's happened. You know, obviously the first moment is Bible Girl, Laura Lee dying. Obviously he feels at fault for that because Laura Lee wanted to help the group and go get rescue and wanted to fly the plane. And Ben tried to put his foot down and be like, no, this is not happening. And you could see both perspectives. Ben's perspective being that, like, obviously, like, she doesn't know how to fly the plane. Even though she's been reading the manual, she doesn't know the mechanics of it. But you can understand Laura Lee's perspective by being like, look, we have to try something to get out of here. This was after they had, like, tried to go, like, walk and find something. And then, yeah. You know, shitty...
And so, like, yeah, they really thought they were going to die if they stayed longer.
Yeah. So, Laura Lee kind of, and everyone else kind of, like, stood up to Ben. I like that this happened early enough in the show, too, because obviously this was before they started buying into it, like, really any of that cult shit or anything like that. So this was actually, like, them buying in, and you could see both perspectives. And, you know, when Laura Lee's rescue attempt isn't successful and she dies from it, I could see Ben obviously feeling guilt for that because obviously the group stopped listening to him, and Ben probably feels like, you know, if she had, like, listened to me, she would still be alive. But maybe if I had been, like, more aggressive and like, you know, and, you know, again, this kind of goes with him, like, losing his leg and everything like that, because when she's, like, stands up, just like, what are you gonna do to stop me, coach? Because he's, like, lost his leg and really can't do much about it. Not saying, like, he had to tackle her to the ground, but, like, this, you know, obviously, regardless of what Ben, like...
Bible Girl's like, what do you do about it? Ben just fucking, like, chucks his crutch at her and, like, starts fucking...
Yeah. But again...
like he does what fucking Lottie in season 2.
Yeah. But again, I feel like no matter...
Bingo as far...
Yeah. But obviously another loss is Jackie's death. Jackie's death ends up being a real turning point for season 1, and I feel like a lot of the talking points, you know, obviously are valid, like with the Shauna stuff and, like, the end of them going to the cult stuff. But I think that a lot of people I don't really think talk about is how that kind of affected, like, Ben's role with the group and everything like that. Because this is when they started to kind of buy into the cult stuff a little bit. And, like, this is when Shauna and Jackie were having their argument. And Ben was trying to chime in and, like, try to stop this argument from really getting bad. And, like, when Shauna kicks when Shauna kicks Jackie out and everything like that, Ben tried to step in, like look, like no one's going outside, but they just weren't listening to him. Like Lottie says, like no, let this happen, type of thing. Like let nature take this, let the wilderness take this over. Like no one was really listening to like Ben, and I feel like Ben kind of feels like somewhat responsible for Jackie's death and everything like that, because the group's not really listening to him anymore. Any thoughts you want to say about Laura Lee's and Jackie's death before I kind of move on to the next thing?
I think, well, again, I think, like you said, I think that adds to like Ben's depression, that like he feels guilt that he can't do more to like prevent these bad things from happening. And at the same time, I think it builds up resentment towards the group as a whole. Because that was something that he mentioned during the trial, that like he, part of it, like his fear and like not and like anger towards the group is that they stop listening to him and respecting him. So I think it's a weird mix of he has partial blame for himself for not doing more, and at the same time he blames the group for not letting him do more.
Yeah. And then obviously that kind of comes into effect when once they kind of start buying into the cult stuff and going into the supernatural stuff, where they kind of start picking like an antler queen to like lead the group and like listen to the wilderness and everything like that. And in season 2, that starts to happen with Lottie. And once that kind of that happens, Ben truly loses his authority with the group and everything like that, because they're more listening to like an ancient tree god or whatever it is. Hopefully it's not the Evil Dead. Imagine the Evil Dead things they're listening to. That'd be fucking bad.
Fucked. They would have been dead in 5 minutes.
No, like Lottie's actually listening to the Evil Dead gods, and she's like, she wants me to say like this spell or whatever type of thing, Okay,
that'd be pretty funny. Yeah, they find the fucking Necronomicon, whatever it's called.
Yeah, but anyhow,
that's the writing in the fucking the flesh book.
Yeah, I feel like them starting to buy into the supernatural stuff, is kind of affecting Ben's authority. And the more listening to the tree gods about like what they should and shouldn't do. That's why they kind of like decide to have the baby shower. That's why they kind of convert to cannibalism a little bit. And Ben's just kind of out of like the group discussions and not really informed on anything and really can't give anything else. And then obviously the last kind of thing that kind of affects his role in the group is obviously once everyone I feel I wrote his reaction in the beginning of season 2. You could just tell that like Ben could kind of sense that everyone's kind of starting to become gone at this point. He kind of tells that everyone's kind of like not themselves. This is kind of after Doom coming and everything like that. When Jackie dies, a big moment I could talk about is, when Taissa reveals that like that Sean has been like obviously doing Jackie's makeup and braiding her hair and everything like that. You could just see that Ben was just physically starting to become like kind of afraid of this group. This is even before the cannibalism stuff, where like they could tell like something was changing in them, and I feel like that change in them was affecting his authority. And again, Ben talked about this in the trial. Like he judged them, and it's kind of a loss for them because he was kind of judging them based on the situation that they were in and everything like that type of thing. And this is weird. This is a kind of a fault of Ben's, really weird. I'm not going to speak necessarily negative, but I'm actually going to mention a flaw of Ben somehow. He has a fucking flaw in the beginning of season.
Yeah, again, God couldn't make him too perfect.
Yeah. He was kind of starting to judge the group a little bit, kind of not realizing that they're younger than him and they're in the teenage, like 17, 18 type of stage where they're kind of getting to adulthood. They've gone through this like traumatic experience. And you gotta think about it like this too. Like, yeah, Ben went through a traumatic experience like losing his leg. But again, they went through a pretty traumatic experiences themselves during the plane crash. Because again, Ben was kind of out of it like throughout most of the plane crash, like after the fact. So they were still kind of...
Yeah, I do agree that Ben should have... Well, I mean, I understand why Ben is like disturbed by like the group. Like he could tell like they're what kind of path they're going down. But yeah, at the same time, it's like I think he should have been a little more understanding And like you said, they are younger. They're like still developing. Like they're still kids, and that like they've been through a very traumatic experience and they're struggling to survive every day. Like it makes sense why they would kind of start to take on these like darker qualities.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, if I had to say like his role in the group, again, I feel like it's kind of a mix. I feel like it starts out kind of as a win, but then kind of turns into like a loss. By the time we get to like beginning of season 2 time type of thing. I feel like once Doomcoming happens is when he kind of starts to lose his authority in the group. Once they kind of,
Well, I would say girl refuse to listen to him. That's like where it would like begin.
Yeah.
His really reclaim its sense, and then obviously after the whole Jackie thing happens, he truly just like is an outsider in the group, and like the bridge is burnt essentially.
Yeah, I feel like the only thing that kind of sucks is because we can mention this. This is why it sucks that we got like a time jump after Bible Girl dies / Laura Lee, because it would have been really cool to get Ben's thoughts on like immediate thoughts of Bible Girl like dying and everything like that type of thing. So, yeah. But then we have some other another thing that ends up being a big loss for Ben that ends up kind of affecting his standing in the group, because all that stuff I just mentioned, that was pre-cannibalism. Now AJ, you wanna after you're unfrozen, I hope you're unfrozen. I don't know if you were frozen, if you were just in just standing in one place, but do you want to mention a big thing? I mean, it's obviously referenced in the beginning of the show, a big thing that ends up really affecting his standing in the group.
Yeah, so the group starting to hunt and eat each other. Well, to be fair, I guess the first time they weren't hunting each other. They ended up eating Jackie's body, and it seemed like they weren't really planning on it. They all got in a fume state. They were all starving so much they all just kind of like were hallucinating and ended up eating her. But Ben, being the only one to kind of keep his senses, is horrified about what they're all doing and just can't do anything besides just like shut the door and go to his room and like hide. He's obviously traumatized by this and horrified by what they did, and he starts like hallucinating his life back home to kind of cope with dealing with all this, and also again the starvation. Eat, so he's like hallucinating, and then it's ultimately his like fear of the group, and like knowing that, or not knowing, but like him believing that he's like the next one to get killed and eaten, essentially. Which, admittedly, that's more in his own head. Nobody in the group really thought that, as far as we know. But I mean, I don't think Ben is incorrect to think that. I think they would have eventually came to that conclusion.
Yeah, I feel like we mentioned in videos, we thought that like that seemed pretty that made a lot of sense. That seemed pretty logical that he'd be the next, because a big thing we would say in our videos is like, again, he's an outsider. But
the thing I just want to point at the time of season 2, nobody was like thinking that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would have eventually came to that conclusion.
Yeah.
So Ben, not being able to really take it anymore, eventually, we talked about it, tries to commit suicide and go out on his own terms.
Yeah, this ends up being like I said, the cannibalism stuff ends up being a pretty big loss for Ben, because again, because he's the only one that doesn't do it, he's kind of Huh?
Well, because I wanted to, Misty tries to get him to like not do it by discouraging him and saying like, "Hey, like we're gonna eat you," like, is that what you want? And he's just kind of like doesn't even care at that point.
Yeah.
But because he's just so over all this, but when he ends up not doing it, that fear of being eaten returns. Because essentially, what Ben wants to be able to go out on his own terms, but he feels like if he's with the group, they're just gonna like not they're not gonna do that. They're gonna eat him and like kill him how they see fit.
Yeah, I feel like a thing I want to mention too is he was already kind of an outside, like we talked about, but once everyone does cannibalism and he doesn't, he feels like even more of an outsider than he did like before too, and everything like that, because he's the only one that has like morals and has like some sensibility kind of left and everything like that.
Yeah, so is definitely a loss overall, especially when we get to season 3. He's being kept in the animal pen, and he basically calls it what it is. Like, he's being treated like livestock at that point.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, this is definitely a loss for him. He's just feeling for his life that he's going to be next on the chopping block. We mentioned this; it's a big character moment for him because when we were seeing these flashbacks, throughout his entire life, he hasn't felt in control of it, and now, like, because he didn't take control and like be with Paul, he's even more of an uncontrollable situation because, again, he feels like he's next on the chopping block. If he's next on the chopping block, he can't even get away or really do anything. Like, if they decide to eat him because of his leg and everything like that.
Like I said, like the only 2 times he doesn't care about being eaten at that point are when he's going to commit suicide anyway. So he just doesn't care what they do at that point because he's going to go on his own terms. But when he ends up not going through it and he's being kept prisoner, he just wants to die. He just wants it all to be over. And he doesn't even care at that point. He just, so he wants Natalie to kill him. So it's kind of interesting that the only 2 points where he's not fearing that they're going to eat him are when he's, in a weird way, in the most control, when he's going to die on his own terms. And at the end, where he has the least amount of control, where he can't move, he can't even use his other leg, he's starving, and he can't even refuse to eat where they force feed him. So it's, in a weird way, it's kind of funny that, not funny, but it's interesting that the only 2 stops caring about being in are when he has the most control and when he has the least amount of control.
Yeah, no in between type of thing. I will mention, I know we don't mention this, it's supposed to be a character thing, but I feel like this feeling ended up being a win for the audience because if you remember, when they do cannibalism, there's not really a good follow-up to it because they just kind of the group kind of moves on from it pretty quickly. I remember I even said this, it was the next fucking video. I'm like, no, they're not having the baby shower the next episode, right? That's not how I remember this. I thought that the baby shower was like later. I thought there was like an episode where like, they actually like talked about it and everything like that. But no, I was wrong. It wasn't the case. The only one that kind of really says anything is like maybe not Jackie. She can't say anything. She's been eaten.
Funny goes, like, what the fuck, guys? You hate me?
Well, she did say something to Sean in her dream, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it was Natalie when she goes back to the plane and like lays Jackie's body to rest. But I feel like the audience won from this because like no one else really reacted. They just moved on, had a baby shower, and just kind of moved on like it was normal. There was no like big emotional stakes with the group when they did cannibalism for the first time. Because I feel like that should have happened. Because in Breaking Bad, when like Walt commits his first murder, that was a big deal. And when Jesse murders for the first time, that like took like the first half of the season 4.
That was like his big character thing for like half of season 4. Yeah.
And Death Note, again, they did a time jump, but like because some time had passed,
like immediate reaction to like his first kill and like when he experiments the second time and you see him like have a mini freak out and like how he kind of justifies it.
Yeah. And then I feel like we didn't really get that, but I think like this is a win for the audience. And again, we said this a lot in our reviews. If Ben didn't have this reaction, them doing cannibalism for the first time wouldn't have had like a big impact in the show as like the writers would have wanted type of thing. I think if this Ben stuff didn't happen, they would have the cannibalism would have just happened and we would have moved on. And again, this is just the greatness of Ben, where like him having this fucking reaction actually made the first time they do cannibalism actually like mean something and everything like that. Yeah. So again, I know it's supposed to be character thing, but I would say this is kind of him having this reaction is kind of a win for the audience because we didn't get that from anyone else in the group.
Exactly, and that kind of ties into the next point on our list is Ben, reacting this way. It matters to the audience because he sticks to his guns. He's the only one in the group I can say could, like definitively died a good person.
Yeah.
I mean, like I get Avi and Jackie, but like, yeah, I mean, like Ben is like the most prominent, I would say. He truly never gave in. Well, because like Ben had the option too. Obviously Javi and Jackie like died, before like all that stuff happened. Like Jackie was the first like one that got eaten, and Javi was the first one that got hunted. So Ben like had the option to be like everybody else, but like, no, he stuck to his guns. He stuck to his morals.
Yeah. Before we kind of move into like our next,
The biggest proof of that is when he has the option to kill Maury to save himself, and this is like the only real mistake that like Ben makes, and it makes complete sense. Even in the caves, what he saves Shauna, recast girl, and Van, and they were all hunting him at that point. But like Ben still chose to save all three of them.
Yeah.
Even though Shauna that was like fucking 100% kill Ben. So yeah, Ben is like a good person. Like even when he was going crazy being in the caves,
But yeah, I want to mention a couple. Like we said, the cannibalism thing ends up being a loss. A couple of big losses I want to make sure we mention that doesn't really have to do with much. The kind of little things for him, but ends up fucking him over long term is obviously Shauna losing the baby ends up fucking over everybody. Obviously that episode, it seems like it's a big Shauna episode when Shauna loses a baby. Shows what Shauna lost. It ends up being a big grieving process. But now that, as we've seen in season 3, that fucked everybody over. But in season 3, it especially fucked Ben over because obviously Ben obviously has no idea really how to help a woman in labor and everything like that. Probably not something he was planning on ever having to do in his life since he was gay for the most part, and at that time there really was, other than adoption, there really wasn't much option for like him to have a child.
Well, I mean, even straight men. I mean, I would not fucking know how to deliver a baby.
I'm just saying that not something he's ever. I just went on a whole tangent saying like probably not something he was ever planning on having to know how to do type of thing. So
right, well, like gay or not, like I mean, fucking yeah, like you said, like. Gay man, he's like fucking 5 things removed from that. But I'm saying like you wouldn't even expect like somebody who is going to be like a father to like have to be the one to deliver the kid,
Yeah. So obviously when Natalie goes to get Ben, Ben even said like, look, I don't know how to like do this. I just put a VHS tape and just hit play. And obviously this ends up kind of backfiring on Ben.
It's like, go ahead.
This ends up backfiring on Ben long term because then obviously Shauna already was lashing out at Ben and hating Ben already as it was in season 3. But once Taissa reminds her of this, this kind of makes Shauna doubly want Ben dead. And honestly, I think her living through this trauma again in season 3, like you could definitely tell, like after Taissa points this out, she like. If she didn't want Ben dead before, she like 1,000% more so wanted Ben dead. Like once, she.
Well, it was like I don't really have like a big concrete reason to want Ben dead aside from like she assumed he was the one who burnt the cabin down. But like, yeah, like kind of being able to like point the blame of like losing the baby at him, like gave her more of a concrete reason to hate him beyond just like looking for something to be angry at. Well, I wanted to say it sucks for Ben because, like, as we said, he lost control and nobody really like respected him or wanted anything from him at that point. So him helping out during the labor was like his chance.
Yeah.
But like obviously, like he has no clue how to do that. So it sucks that like Ben, like Ben had an opportunity where everybody was like looking at him to like for help, but like he can't help out in that situation.
And unfortunately, he went on into his daydream again and went into his own world while everyone else kind of dealt with it and everything like that, which I think, like you said, affected his standing in the group. And then obviously another one that ended up being a big loss for him was not being able to go out on his own terms. You kind of talked about this already, but I'll kind of say it again. Obviously, kind of after this happens, he kind of feels like completely useless. It's the next episode, actually, too, where like he has that vision of Paul where he says, okay, like, it's time to go, Ben. Like, it's time for you to end this off on your own terms. And Ben was pretty well said, ending it off on his own terms. And again, I think it's really sad to think if Ben died in season 2, episode 7, I think maybe at the end of the day I would have saw it as a win. Because then, he would have actually gotten to go out in his own terms. He would have actually, he felt like he was somewhat happy. If you remember, he shaves his beard, in that episode and everything like that. He was pretty ready to go out on his own terms. He had a good alibi for it, too, because, this was when, everyone went to go look for Crystal. So, maybe Ben was thinking, no one will even know. Everyone would just think I died trying to find Crystal or something. No one would really know, the context behind it type of thing. Because I remember he uses crystals, thin to try to make his,
Yeah, so he can do his own thing. I also feel bad for him here because he doesn't even not do it for himself. Misty doesn't convince him, God, I have so much to live for. He basically stops because of Misty's trauma, where Misty breaks down crying, feeling responsible for not being able to help the baby. And not, she says please don't make me watch somebody else die, please. And that's kind of what gets Ben to not jump, which is unfortunate that Ben is that good of a person that it's not even he feels like he has a lot to live for. It's that he just doesn't want to burden Misty.
Yeah. Really sad. I remember I even said in that video that I was questioned is this gonna if is Ben not was this the right time for Ben to finally call it quits type of thing? Is he gonna have a worse death? And it ended up being the case. I was more so thinking is he gonna take a dark turn or something? But he ended up having a far worse death. Because if he had died here, I might have considered it a win in the end. But unfortunately, again, another big loss here. Again, he's still not in control. He couldn't even go out on his own terms like you wanted to type of thing. Because, again, Misty, he didn't want to burden Misty trauma and leave Misty more trauma and everything like that. Really shows how good of a person he is, too, considering the fact that,
it's kind of funny. Misty was trying to tell him I'll tell everybody that you did this, and this, so everyone hates you when you're gone, to convince him to not jump. And she tells, she says, I'll tell everybody you're gay. And he kind of, smiles when she says that. If anything, that made him more happy to jump. That, because, when Misty tried to pounce on him in season 1 during the Doom Coming, he screamed, I'm gay! Take that, Mom and Dad, I'm gay!
Yeah.
He happy at the idea that he could, be himself loud and proud. So the idea that even if they ate him, if Misty told everybody that he was gay when they got back home, he would have been happy with that. That in death, people would have known the real him.
Yeah. So yeah, those are two big losses for him. Again, the Jonathan's maybe not a big loss, but it's a big loss for everybody else and him. But then obviously the not being able to go out on his own terms. So I'm gonna make an audible here. I was originally because I wrote this before, doing his episode's death. I am gonna save I'm gonna save the next topic for the end because as we talked about before, he ended up really carrying 2 seasons on his back. So I want to save that for the end. But another big talking point we can mention that ends up really messing him up is obviously the cabin burning down and finding the cave. Finding the cave ends up kind of being a mixed bag for him. This ends up being a win because he's not really around for the hunt for the first time around. So we kind of said a what if, would Ben have participated in the hunt? Would he have allowed the hunt to happen? Would he have been able to stop the hunt? Who knows? We don't really know the answer to any of these questions, but because I think him finding the cave originally or going to find the cave, well, that was a win for the fucking audience because that was that's when Ben became the fucking Giga Chad, and all of a sudden we just saw this fucking character emerge out of fucking nowhere, and everything like that. Remember that moment in I don't think we couldn't make this reference yet, but remember that moment in Star Wars where you saw Luke Skywalker come out and you felt this epic character was gonna emerge because he was just living on a little farm and everything like that. That was kind of Ben in season 2, episode 8. This fucking character just came out of nowhere and emerged.
Where becoming the hero we all needed. I love it.
But that ends up kind of being a win for the audience, but a win for him because he wasn't there for the hunt, so maybe like he survived the hunt. But I would say it ends up kind of being a loss that he ends up finding the cave and everything like that. Well, depending on this thing, because the cabin burning down. Wanted to kind of talk about why this is kind of a loss for him that the cabin burns down, and like
so it's
if
funny.
if it can't. And I'll say, if you can't make the connection, like, why him finding the cave and the cabin burning down is kind of a loss, I'll obviously say it type of thing.
Yeah. So I think if it was the end of season 2, I would consider the cabin burning down a win. Because, again, it was heavily implied that it was Ben who did it. And I was like, you know what? Like, it sucks that Ben compromises his morals, but that makes sense that, like, he, like, this, as far as he's concerned, these are a bunch of deranged cannibals. Like, he's protecting himself. However, we find out that it wasn't Ben who burned the cabin down. He was just trying to, stay by himself. He wasn't really involved with them. But because of the timing of him leaving, the group assumed it was Ben who burned the cabin down and then dipped. So they want to hunt him. And sure enough, when he captures Maury, and Maury ends up escaping, they all go looking for him, assuming he's the one who burned the cabin down and putting him on trial for the cabin. So, it's unfortunate that Ben just wanted to be left alone. He wanted to go in the cave and do his own thing. But because of the timing of the cabin burning down, he was essentially public enemy number 1, Yellow Jackets.
Yeah. I'm glad you made the connection. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's really unfortunate that that all happened and everything like that. And again, we'll come back to this because, again, this all depends on, because the answer for burning the cabin down and everything like that. But I'd say finding the cave is in the middle a win because it also extended his life a little bit. He was able to finally like get away from these people finally and do his own thing. But obviously, like we said, a loss because the timing of that ended up being unfortunate because the cabin burned down like around that same time type of thing. Could say a coincidence, but kind of a good. I feel like this is one of those occasions where the coincidence benefited the show. Usually, we have these weird Yellow Jackets coincidence that kind of don't benefit the show, but this was one that benefited. And then a little point, kind of a loss for the audience. Obviously, the time jump, that's a loss for the audience is all allowed, but where it connects to like Ben is we could have again nothing big, but we could have gotten some scenes where like we could because obviously you find out. Through the 6 months and stuff, he was going to go crazy. It would have been kind of nice. You could have gotten a couple scenes, and then you could make it would make you question whether or not he actually did burn the cabin down, type of thing. Like if we were rewriting ever season 2, but it kind of sucks we didn't really get any of that. So I feel like that's not. I feel like again, I know we're supposed to do character stuff, but that's a loss on the audience because that's some big character stuff you kind of like miss. So time jump is still kind of a loss, and that's how it connects to Ben. Anything more you want to say on that?
No. Like you said, that's more of a story thing.
And then, do you want to take kidnapping Maury or do you want to take the trial? Whatever one you take, I'll just take the other one.
So, we see Ben. He's doing pretty well for himself for a man with one leg. He ends up finding the rations, which we end up finding out are the like Cody mentioned that he knows people who like stash food out there. So, because we didn't know where that food came from, or we thought it was like the cabin guy. Ben's doing pretty well for himself, and even though he's going a little crazy, like hearing voices, he's surviving. He's doing okay. And he's obviously very happy he found like food you would find back in society. Like nutrient bars and hot chocolate. He ends up finding Maury in the pit, and at the end of season 2,
not the same pit as the end of season 3.
Yeah, Maury falls into pits a lot, 3 times. It's the beginning of the show, even though it's the same at the end of season 3, but we saw it twice, so it's 3.
Does that count though? Because that didn't end up being that wasn't the actual actress.
Fine, 2.5 times. And then, you think Ben compromised his morals to burn the cabin down, but I would consider that a win anyway, even if he did do it. But we end up finding out he didn't do it. So Ben, sticking to his morals, ends up rescuing Mari from the pit because he could have just fucking left her there and dipped. But no, he ends up like helping her fix her leg and getting her out of there, taking her back to the cave. And he kind of is able to bond a little bit with Mari because, you know, he ends up... We find out he didn't really like Mari because Mari was like, constantly talking shit about him back in the high school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, he ends up bonding a little bit because of the story Mari told him about like her cousin that died. And he ends up, again, continuing to hold his morals, and he lets her go. This obviously became a loss practically because she knocked him out, ran away, and told everybody else that where he is. But, you know, him kidnapping Mari, you know, he rescued Mari from the pit, was going to let her go from the cave, and when everybody went to go capture him, he rescued Shauna Van, a recast girl. So even though that all worked against him practically, and, you know, and even though Ben knew this was going to fuck him over in the end, he, again, like we said, stuck to his guns and, like, didn't compromise like everybody else did.
Yeah. Kind of have the same things. I'll just but like, you know, during this time, you could see his depression, say that he was really going crazy. You know, he treats Mari pretty good, though, in the cave. I feel like that's kind of something to mention. Obviously, when he's left prisoner, like, you know, later on in the show, it really shows the contrast. Like, he had Mari prisoner, but he still, like, kept her well fed and, like took care of her even when she attacks him and, like...
yeah, he, like, didn't hurt her really, like, in any way, yeah.
But, yeah, he still, like, flushed her eyes out and everything like that. Yeah, I really like it. I want to mention his monologue, too, he has in the cave, where he just mentions, like, what the hell, I'm just a normal guy, and, like, I've resorted to, like, this type of thing, like, and, like, gets upset about the fact that, like, what the hell has happened with my life type of thing, which I think is just a really good monologue. You can check out our episode 3 video for that. And I think that's the biggest thing, you know, yeah, like, letting Mari go ended up being the ultimate downfall for him. That's when everything just falls apart for him, you know. It leads to the trial, it leads to him getting tortured and everything like that. But, like, I think that's the biggest thing, you know. Ben hadn't really done anything drastic, like, at all in the show up until this point. Everybody else had kind of done some shady things and some bad things. But this was the first time Ben did something, and I think the biggest thing is he kind of saw that he was going to go down a dark path, and he course corrected and decided, like, no, I'm not going to be this person, I'm not going to go down this path, and he lets Mari go. And I think that's kind of a way that he kind of wins overall in the show, not just in this moment, where he saw he was going down a dark path, and he just never, you know, he stuck to his morals and just ended up being a good person. And I think that's a really cool moment for, you know, and a really cool thing about Ben's character. And again, it just kind of sucks and, you know, really fucks him over in the end. And again, him doing that for, like, saving Van, recast girl and Shauna, even though they were hunting him and everything like that, just really shows that he was just a really good moral person and everything like that. So just kind of as the end, letting Mari go ended up being a huge loss for him, but the huge win for him was correcting himself when he saw that he was going down a dark path and just sticking to his morals and everything like that. Then kind of going through the trial. The trial, I think, was just such a genius idea for the show. You know,
probably the best episode in the entire show.
But don't forget that at the end of that fucking episode, Lottie.
Yeah, well, yeah, that and the one after it, I think, right?
No, it's death to like that is in episode 6.
Right. But it's this area of Yellow Jackets is like the best in the show.
Yeah. And I know season 4 has come out yet, but I'm making the prediction now. I don't think this area of the show is going to be topped. I don't think it is.
We're going to look back on this stretch of the show and be like, this was the best. Again, unfortunately, if season 3, I mean, this isn't really well, it's kind of been related. Where like if the rest of season 3 was able to like maintain this, or at least it didn't have as big a dip as it did, it would have been the best season.
Yeah, probably. And if the present had been better, probably.
Right.
Because all this Ben, because don't forget there was a whole fucking present that wasn't kind of falling flat on its fate. Like,
talk about how good the first half of season 3 is. It's amazing and stuff.
But so yeah, the trial ends up obviously being a farce. I made the comparison. It's like To Kill a Mockingbird when I forget the guy's name because it's been so long since I read the book. But when the guy, obviously the guy is African American and everything like that, and he's basically being pushed through.
Pretty assumes like it's been a while since I've read the book, but yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, he's obviously he's got to be put on trial because that's how the court system works and everything like that. But he's obviously going to get found guilty because of civil rights and everything like that.
And funny enough, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, I can quote Anakin for something. It's like, you've already made your decision, haven't you? This trial is just a formality.
Do you think Ben was quoted? Oh, no, because was Clone Wars out yet? Was Clone Wars out then yet?
Clone Wars came out like 2008.
Oh, fuck. That would have been awesome, like, because if Ben was because Ben says, actually, you know what? I want to say his actor took inspiration, like, because I remember, and used it, like, and just didn't word it the same, so that way they wouldn't get, like, copyrighted and everything like that.
Yeah.
But, the trial ends up being kind of a farce because Ben knows that he's going to get found guilty in this trial. And honestly, this trial ends up being a loss. It kind of talks about all the stuff he kind of already mentioned about Ben, so I won't really repeat it. But this obviously is a loss for him because, Shauna at the end, well, first, Natalie kind of screws it up because, obviously, it's supposed to typically be, like, unanimous one way or the other. But obviously, Natalie kind of messed the voting and said instead it's going to be 2/3 since I forget what the reason was that she kind of set it up that way, but she instead went 2/3. It kind of meets Shauna halfway, so that kind of fucks it over. But then because of that, everyone kind of like was on the fence. Like some people voted him innocent, some people voted him guilty, and like Shauna wigged the votes because by the end of the trial was already over, but Shauna kept like saying and like forcing everyone to kind of like change their thinking and everything like that.
Natalie did like the voting in a way to try to help Ben.
Yeah.
But because they couldn't like reach that, because I forget what it was. I think it's like 2/3 majority or something.
Yeah.
Or something. But so basically, she did it that like. She tried to do it in a way that like they could get Ben like not guilty, but because of what Shauna did, not because of that, but because some people couldn't like change. Sorry, I'm wording it badly. Basically, Natalie tried to do how the voting worked in a way that they could find Ben not guilty, but because of the split, they couldn't make him not like they had to keep voting it over and over.
Yeah. And it was a while. And then
so I'm saying it sucks that like, the thing that was trying to help Ben out ended up fucking him over.
Yeah. And then but I put this what's a win here? And Steven Kruger, the actor that played Ben, talked about this, is Ben kind of tried to use this trial because throughout his whole life, like we mentioned, he really wasn't open about like who he really was and everything like that. So he kind of tried to use this trial to kind of get the group to like be open to who they really were and everything like that. Whether that was a good person, a big pieces of shit, or somewhere in the middle type of thing. He just wanted them to kind of like know who they were and kind of own it and all that type of stuff. And that's what he kind of tried to.
And like I didn't pick up on that the first time I saw it, but I really like that idea. Yeah, that like Ben, kind of one last time is being like the adult for these kids.
Yeah. So I'd say I think the trial is kind of a win in that way because I think after the trial, we kind of see the sense of the characters kind of start to like find their footing again and like start to kind of get a feel.
Trial is a win because it's like after the trial, because like we saw like everybody was like tearing up at Ben's like speech, and it's really only Shauna and like one or two other, like Melissa and like Taisa, who weren't convinced. Pretty much everyone else like was fine with Ben. Again, it was Shauna after the fact that like fucked with it, but like the trial itself, I would consider a win for Ben overall.
Yeah. I would consider it a win. It ends up.
It's after the fact that's a loss.
Yeah. The trial. So I would say the trial is a win. The voting's a loss. How about that? I would say that.
Yeah.
And then, going through Missy's goodbye to Ben just to kind of keep consistency. Since I talked about the Missy stuff earlier, I'll just talk about it here too. I get this is kind of somewhat a win if you want to look at it that way, because this ends up being sort of the last scene together. Won't repeat this too much as we kind of talked about it earlier, but obviously, Misty, kind of goes and kind of lets Ben know how he's going to die. And Ben's obviously upset. Obviously, another thing that's a loss, we mentioned this is at the point where he's starting to not really be treated like a human anymore. He's kind of started to be treated like livestock because he's being kept in the pen with the animals. And obviously, he's just awaiting his death. And who knows? I don't even know what he was thinking of, because I don't know if he thought they were going to eat him, if he just didn't care by that point, type of thing. So,
But yeah, we're about to hit 2 hours, so I think we'll try to speed up a little bit.
Yeah. What the last couple of points, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah,
because I know we got this about like his his chadness, but carrying everything on his back.
But yeah, continuing with the Misty thing, this ends up being somewhat of a win because Misty even said that like she's gonna do whatever she can to like make sure that like his legacy will be that he was like a good person and like a decent person and everything like that. We'll be interested to see if they do anything with that. Obviously, because if we get a season like maybe right after the plane crash, it will be interesting if like Misty tries, because obviously people will be asking like what happened to Ben or whatever. It'll be interesting to see if Misty tries to talk about Ben in a positive light and everything like that. I guess kind of a win too, because like so I would say this is somewhat of a win. What kind of makes it somewhat of a loss is obviously this doesn't really end up being like the actual last scene together, because it's the scene with them force feeding Ben. So
yeah.
But yeah, why don't you talk about a loss? You could talk about these two things because one leads to the other type of thing.
Yeah.
So
Ben's initial execution was a loss because, as I said, like it sucks too because he won a lot of goodwill before Shauna fucked up with the votes, but like when they were going to execute him, he like refused. He didn't want to be blindfolded. They weren't even respecting his wishes, and they just let him like try and beg while they were working up the nerve to actually shoot him. So like that was fucked up, and that was a loss. And then he didn't even, because Recast Girl had that vision that they needed to keep him alive. But at this point, Ben was wishing for death because the way they were treating him. Shauna and Melissa went in there, cut his Achilles heel so he couldn't, escape. Not that he was going to even be able to escape at that point. You could just tell Melissa and Shauna enjoyed fucking torturing him.
And like we said before, they didn't even need to cut his Achilles. Someone could have just like kept watch or something like that type of thing. So.
And then just like let him scream for presumably like hours and like bleed and be in horrible pain. And for the next few weeks to even months, he's just kept in the same pen every single day with nothing to do except to rot. Let the flies like look at his fly around him as he's sitting there in his own shit and smell. Nothing to do. And he just knows he's just sitting there waiting to die. And he has to spend every day, the only hope he has is trying to convince Natalie to let him die. And she refuses him even that. And then, he refuses to eat, trying to just die that way. And they don't even give him that. Misty, like you said, they had a somewhat good goodbye before. But even that turns sour when she kind of leads the charge on force feeding him.
Yeah.
Even that one, like his two only good relationships, Natalie refuses to let him die, and Misty leads the charge on not respecting the wishes to not eat. Even Travis, that relationship wasn't really anything, but even Travis like helped out and force feeding him.
Yeah, I think he was like the main one, like actually, because actually like helping like type of thing too.
Yeah, exactly. And then, we do get one kind of light in the darkness, kind of where Natalie says enough is enough. And she goes in there to kill him, and Ben realizes it when he wakes up and sees the knife. And it's so sad. He can't even like speak at this point. He's just so broken.
Yeah.
But you can see like he finally has some hope that he can just have it be over. When Natalie kills him, obviously like it sucks that she's being traumatized. But for Ben, you can tell he's so grateful that like it's finally over.
I'm kind of glad you got to talk about this because in the review, when we reviewed this episode, I was the main one that talked about it. So now it's nice you get to actually talk about it.
So it's Ben, Ben's initial execution in the Vision were a loss. His torture is obviously a loss, and the months he spent just in the animal pen, and his death, even though he was happy that it was finally there. It was only happy because like it was just release, it was sad that like that was the only thing he could look forward to is dying and it being all over. So I would still consider that a loss that like he couldn't even really go on his own terms.
Yeah, just really sad, his execution, like you said, is a loss. Like they're not respecting his wishes. I think too, like we talked about the trial was a win, but like then he just sees like, because I remember a lot of the things he's saying like it's me, it's Coach Scott, like this isn't you, like he's just seeing these girls just become monsters at this point, and he just doesn't seem like they even recognize him. They can't even like reason with them at that point. And then like the Vision's a lot.
Like you said, they're kind of becoming monsters, and it's like Ben is like the only good person left, and he gets treated like he's not even human. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and then huh?
I said he's the person who deserves it the least, and it sucks too because Javi drowned, which obviously isn't great, and Jackie like froze in her sleep, so that seemed pretty painless. And Black Girl also like died quickly, so it's like everybody at to this point died pretty quickly. Whereas Ben had to suffer for a long time, and he deserved it the least.
Yeah, but then the Vision ends up being a loss because again, I feel like during this whole season, everybody wanted him dead, but he like wanted to be. I feel like at this point he had like wanted to be alive at that point. Like he was kind of fine with living, but then like when everyone has the Vision, like when they even said like he's our bridge home, everyone now finally like is willing to do anything they can because they have this glimmer of hope of going home. And that's the whole reason they're keeping him alive, but like Ben actually wants to die. And again, we could still look at this as a fucking loss because Natalie is even trying to encourage Ben, saying like, hey, like if you can get out of it, if we can get home because of this, you're gonna feel better. Like Ben doesn't believe in any of this stuff, so he has to basically take a Vision to try to deal with this.
Right, and it's Ben thinks the Vision's bullshit. Yeah,
and then even then, like say they get rescued and everything like that, like Ben at this point is gonna be so mentally fucked from PTSD even more so, and like I just think like he's gonna be, who even knows what he will be like once he gets back. If he
like got back home, he would eventually just end up killing himself.
Yeah, because of all the trauma and everything like that. So
that's why I feel so bad about Ben for these months he's in the animal pen where Natalie refuses to kill him. Because again, he doesn't believe the Vision is going to amount to anything, so he just believes that like he's just going to sit there forever. Like they're just never going to let him die.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the loss doesn't end there because some of the biggest losses of them all kind of happen here. His fear ends up coming true that they're gonna eat him because obviously Shauna ends up saying like we're gonna honor Ben tonight, and you know, unfortunately, they ended up eating Ben, and his biggest fear ended up coming true that they were just gonna eat him, and as a way of honoring him, and the thing that sucked the most out of Ben getting eaten is they didn't even have to like eat Ben. Like at least with like Jackie, they would a fugue state. Harvey, they didn't have much of a choice because there was nothing to hunt. They had livestock at that point, but they still
did it anyway. Like, you know, honor him. You know, is horseshit. You know, so yeah, like you said, they didn't even eat him at an ate him.
Yeah. But unfortunately, the biggest loss comes because it was the timing of his death. Because unfortunately, he could have probably gotten out of all of this when the researchers showed up. Because the researchers showed up and he missed. We've talked about this so much off camera. He missed the researchers by like a few hours because he died like that. He died like that morning. I think because it was right before the sun came up. And honestly, like. I feel like the researchers would have been able to help him, and maybe all that stuff at the end of the season would have been avoided with Shauna taking over the group and everything like that type of thing. So you know, that ends up being a loss for him.
Because, you know, the main thing that like everybody was worried about is like them finding the researchers finding them while they were eating Ben. You know, and then obviously Lottie killing dead meat. So
Yeah.
a lot of that. Well, you know, maybe Lottie being a psycho would have still happened. But, like, you know, again, they just be like, oh, well, Lottie's fucking crazy. You know, we didn't do any of that. So, yeah, it, like, really, like, they could have all gone home, you know, if they treated Ben better, essentially.
Yeah. We do have to talk about, but yeah, so overall, we're going to say right now, kind of give a definitive answer because the last couple of segments are kind of things that we're just going to do, because this is everything that's in the show that we know about Ben at this moment. Unfortunately, we've kind of been saying this a lot. Ben's, at the end of the day, our first loss. It's a loss. You know, everyone else, I think it's been like a win. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, Ben ends the show in a loss. And unfortunately, that was kind of Ben's whole trajectory in Yellow Jackets. He doesn't get many very wins. Everything's kind of a loss. This plane crash really messed everything up for him. And I think no matter what, he was going to leave. He was going to come out of the plane crash in a worse state with everything that he went through. And
yeah,
that's what I mean.
It's, you know, the reason why we want to talk about Ben specifically and, you know, why we like him so much is that, like, he takes so many losses, yet he was carrying the show for 2 seasons, essentially, or a season and a half. Because season 1, you know, he's a great character, you know, but he is more in the background. Obviously, his story is that he's, like, losing control of the group. And in season 2, the characters are just sitting around, not really doing anything. And it's Ben, despite having one leg, doing everything, you know? You know, and, like, he has so many great moments working with Natalie to, like, scope out the area. Maury tries to talk shit, and he fucking claps back at her, which is, like, amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, Maury tries to be like, no, you can't help out with the game, blah, blah, blah. You know, Ben has to be like, Maury, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, he is able to decipher Javi's cryptic-ass message and find the cave. And, you know, even Tyson and Van were able to find out the sleepwalking, like, symbols through Ben's maps. So Ben was helping out in storylines he wasn't even fucking involved with.
You mentioned a big thing that he was there. We always get mad that the people in Yellow Jackets speak in riddles. He was the only one that was able to solve a riddle in Yellow Jackets. Someone speaking in riddles.
So, you know, Ben with his, I'm amazed Ben is able to balance him after Ben only had one leg. I'm amazed he can balance himself with those gigantic balls he has.
Yeah.
So it's like, and obviously in season 3, he's making, again, even though it's a loss, because that's a big thing we have in Yellow Jackets from a writing perspective, is that characters will make dumb decisions and it feels out of character. It's like, why would you ever do, like, again, why the fuck would anyone let Shauna have the shotgun or the rifle? Sorry, and why would anyone let Shauna fucking do anything at that point? Why would not everybody fucking beat the ever living fuck out of Shauna?
Yeah.
Whereas with Ben in the first half of season 3, whenever he made a quote unquote bad decision, it was completely in character. It makes complete character sense why he did all the things he did. Even though it didn't work out for him in the end and it got him killed, it's like it makes complete sense why he would do those things. So the writing for Ben was amazing. And it's because we say that because it's like there's so many characters where they have at least a couple bad moments or a couple moments where it's like, why would they do that? With Ben, I really legitimately cannot think of bad writing with Ben. Because even the flaws we point out with Ben are like good flaws.
Right.
Like it's good writing. So with Ben, it's like everything with Ben is fucking amazing. So again, even though this ends in a loss for him, like it's good, like it makes sense why we got here. And it's crazy because everything is a loss for Ben because everyone else fucked him over. Like Ben did nothing wrong.
Right.
It is like everything else fucking up that got Ben fucked over,
I think we talked about this. He's the reverse, like Nia, where he would be able to get out of a situation like in any plot if he could just do his own thing and everything like that.
Exactly. It is everybody else fucking him over. Like Ben, if Ben was left alone, he'd be fine. Which we saw that because in between seasons 2 and 3, he was doing fine. It was getting involved back with the Yellow Jackets that fucked him over.
That's why we wish we got like we didn't get the time jump a little bit so we could see Ben like not.
So that's a big thing with Ben. That's less of a character thing, but that is what drew us to Ben as a character. That is why we like him from like a writing perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he's the best character in the show. And that, like, even though this ended in a loss for him, I like it. It makes sense why we got here. And in a weird way, again, it's a tragic character, but that's why we love him.
Yeah, I agree. When I first started watching Yellow Jackets, I think the biggest thing that kind of connected us to Ben too was because we got stuff in the present and everything like that. We were kind of pretty certain that Ben wasn't going to make it out of like wasn't going to make it out of the situation, and they kept extending his time on the show and everything like that. And they kept making us like, even though we knew he wasn't going to make it, the writers would obviously keep doing like a bait and switch. Like, okay, he's not going to die here. He's not going to die here. I think what also makes his character...
Sorry, go ahead.
I think what also makes his character too is in the present, they keep talking about like how they would do these reprehensible things, how they would do these bad things. And we see this a lot like Survivor type shows, like in Walking Dead. We see it like in... other survival type shows where characters have to do these explainable and just really terrible things to kind of justify their survival and everything like that. And you see sometimes it's terrible things, but you can typically see the character's point of view. But like, what made Ben's character so good is because he was such this pure person. All the bad stuff that would happen to them, you could actually see, like, yes, this is this is actually terrible things. You actually buy that this is terrible things that they're doing and everything like that.
It's like, yeah, I think we mentioned in like at the end of season 3 that like really it's only like Shauna and Lottie that were like fucked up, but like everybody else did have a little bit of a hand in what happened with Ben. So like yeah, that's like the one point where I can buy them like feeling guilty when they get back to society.
Yeah. But yeah, I like Ben's character a lot,
Oh yeah,
I feel like
he was the best character in the show, and I'm glad with how his story ended, because that's a big thing that happened in Yellow Jackets a lot, where a character will, obviously die, or the character arc will end, and it was ended in a disappointment. We really didn't like how it concluded. With Ben, from beginning, middle to end, it was great. I am happy with how his story went.
Yeah. I remember I was worried too how his story was going to go because there was theories going out there that he was going to actually like be the villain, and then like when episode 2 happened when he kidnapped Molly, like okay, they're actually going to take this point, but I'm really glad it was the other way around where like going into season
3, I thought Ben was going to be like the villain, and I was excited for that. But this was an example of Yellow Jackets actually exceeding my expectations. I like that they didn't have Ben burn the cabin down. I like that they had him hold on to his morals and what they did with him. Jackets exceeded my expectations with Ben.
If you think about it too, the first half of the season is really it's totally
character of the first half of season 3.
Not just it's totally his POV. Like his POV, like
in character, like he is the one we follow. Like we're rooting for Ben, and we're like not rooting for the other Yellow Jackets.
Yeah,
like we believe in Ben, and like we know he's not the villain they're making him out to be.
Yeah. I feel like too why a good moment of the show, and why we feel like he carried the two seasons single-handedly on his back. Obviously, we mentioned like in season 2, it just felt like anything that wasn't really Ben related really wasn't that great, other than like maybe the Shauna Oak, some of the Natalie Travis stuff, but then they kind of bungled that a little bit. And then after Ben dies, and again, I get it, we kind of figured that was gonna happen, that there'd be a little bit of a drop off after he died. But then the researchers, came in, and we thought, okay, it might not be as good, but it'll be something. But that really didn't live up to expectations. They made a lot of mistakes with that storyline. I thought the disappointment is I wish we kind of would have gotten the group if. And I think the thing I liked about Ben's death too was we got immediate follow up on his death. Like,
yeah, big thing.
Because with Bible Girl,
Yellow Jacket, get much of an immediate follow up. With Ben, we did, and that helped a lot with like his impact on the show.
Yeah, I do wish we could have gotten like some more moments where they talked about him. We don't really get like many more other than that. The scene when Natalie goes back to the planet, lays like his head to rest. But we didn't. It's a little disappointment for me. Like I kind of wish it divided the group up a little bit more than it did, because obviously, once the researchers show up, Ben's not really like as much. Which I get it, he's dead, but I kind of wish there was still like some discussion about Ben. Again, they fucked it.
Present, it's unfortunate that we're probably not. That we have no reason to really bring him up present day to get anybody's thoughts on him. Like with Jackie, obviously her death is a big part of Shauna's character, that she's constantly reappearing. Whereas with Ben, with Natalie dead in the present,
yeah,
the only character who really has any reason to bring him up is Misty. But like again, I have trouble finding a scenario where she would bring him up.
Yeah, the biggest thing I mentioned is the biggest reason I think Misty goes above and beyond for like her friends and everything in the present is because I don't think she was really able to do that for Ben in the past, so that's why she does it in the present, type of thing. And unfortunate for Natalie, because the closest we'll get with Natalie talking about like Ben is probably that scene in the car with her and Thaisa, like where she like gets upset with them about mentioning like But again, I feel like what kind of sucks is we don't get Natalie talking about it now, knowing that Ben is like dead, type of thing, like with the context, type of thing.
Again, I with Natalie's death, to make the comparison, I think it's stupid that she sees Harvey like when she's dying. Would have been really cool if she saw, like I said, either her dad, like she did in like the first like thing with the plane,
and then Travis,
because storyline was like finding out who killed Travis, or Ben, because obviously we find out that Natalie ends up killing Ben. And that's like a huge traumatic thing for her. So like her seeing Javi before she dies is like it makes like the least amount of sense.
Yeah, that was definitely one they probably like. Oh, well, the characters haven't seen Ben die in the past yet.
That episode in the past, so they like had him throw him around in the present.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like obviously I feel like a big thing with Yellow Jackets, and it's a big criticism that we have. It seems like sometimes if something doesn't happen in the past, they won't mention it or talk about it like in the present. Much.
Even though in the present, like everything in the past already happened, obviously, but like they won't treat it like that in the present. Until we actually see it, like it's not going to be brought up.
Yeah. But the biggest thing we have to mention though, because everything we just talked about with Ben, it's all fair enough and all fine and good, but there's an unfortunate thing that kind of happens that doesn't necessarily affect Ben, but one thing that sucks is we never find out who burns the cabin down. They move on from it like very quickly after his death. And I think that's really disappointing because, you know, I'm pretty much sure that he didn't burn the cabin down. Like, I am like, at this point, like 99.99, and then that little like slash that goes on that shows on that the nine's going on forever. Sure, sure that he didn't burn the cabin down. Based on his character motivations, based on the way he acts, like in season 3. But
yeah, like every does in season 3 points to the fact that like why would he be the one who burned the cabin down?
yeah. But I think we should have at least gotten an answer of who actually burned the cabin down. It doesn't have to be just for this reason. I just think it's mainly the reason Yellow Jacket seems to like want to do a lot of mystery storylines and like is there a wilderness? All this other
The
type
thing is, like, they resolve a lot of the mysteries, and I feel like they have to give us some answers. Like I definitely don't. Like with the wilderness thing, is it real or not? Like that's what I could see why they would keep that ambiguous. But like with who burned the cabin down, I see no reason why that shouldn't have been answered.
Yeah. And again, I feel like that should have been answered because then if Ben burned the cabin down, then like the torch is like somewhat justifiable and everything like that. And like them being
yeah. But like if we find out who did it, that'd be really interesting to see the other characters' reactions. To be like, oh fuck, like we killed Ben. No, we not only did we kill him, we treated him like a fucking like piece of shit for no reason. Like that would 100% add to their guilt. That like they treated and then got him killed. So to see everybody else's reaction, and that would make sense why they don't bring up Ben in the future. Is like it's such a soft spot for them. That they don't want to bring him up.
Yeah. A big thing too could be. I mean, obviously, we could because the big person we could come up with that could burn the cabin down is Sleepwalking Thaisa, and like it would be cool if like after the Ben stuff, maybe not right afterwards, but like a couple episodes later, like Thaisa has like some type of memory all of a sudden where she's like, oh shit, I burned the cabin down. Maybe she talks with like Van privately about it, and like maybe like Thaisa and Van like keep it close to the vest. Be like, okay, like. Maybe I don't think we should tell anyone you did it because we saw what they did to like Ben, and like how much that like messed everyone up, type of thing.
But like, yeah, it's kind of at a point where like there's no reason to find out who actually did it now. Like we've kind of moved on from it.
Yeah,
there's like rescues coming by the end of season 3, and like, if they're why would they resolve that in the present? Because like it's like 25 years removed,
right. I feel like another disappointment too is like why we never found out who burned the cabin down. Like the cabin was the main setting of the show for the 2 seasons, and the fact that we never found out like who burned the cabin down, that would be
like that's definitely something that should have gotten answered. And again, that's not like an ambiguous thing like the wilderness where it's like supernatural. Is it? I don't know. Like again, like there was a very definitive answer to like who burned the cabin down, and it's like why didn't we get it?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's really disappointing we didn't get that answer. And again, for the Ben aspect of it, it's even more disappointing because that was the big.
I don't think the show is better that it's ambiguous. I think getting an answer would have made it better.
Yeah, definitely. Like again, I think the biggest example we can give is Walter White. He actually finally admitted why he did the stuff that he did at the end of the show. They actually never could. They never even had to say that. They never had to touch that. They could have just left that ambiguous, and like you could have gotten more from it. But Walt actually admitted it, and like, wow, that makes a lot of sense for his character. We could have seen it, but
I like everything he went through, like did affect him, and like it brought him to the point where he was able to admit it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. That did a lot for his character. Like, not everything has to be ambiguous or a mystery. I definitely think that that should not have been left as a mystery.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely.
And that, I guess it doesn't affect Ben as a character, but I guess it affects his legacy that, like, since this was such a big part of Ben's story, it should have gotten a more conclusive ending. Again, even if it got concluded after Ben died,
yeah,
like, it should have got a conclusion.
Right. Well, I would have had to conclude after Ben died because that kind of
yeah. Then the damage is done. Like it's like, oh fuck, we killed an innocent man.
Right. Who would you have burn I would have had Sleepwalking Thaisa burn the cabin down. probably.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. I was gonna say either that or Shauna, I guess, but like, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't make her that evil. Like, she's already pretty evil in season 3. All right, let's spread it around a little bit.
I know, but it was probably Adam who burned the cabin down. No,
I can see that.
No, a better one. That like random the people from that Earth Pendant kingdom like burned the cabin down, probably. You know.
All of that, like, all those Fire Nation guys. It's like that one guy, like, oh yeah, no, that's crazy. I don't remember who did that.
And then they just time travel to the future to burn down the fucking cabin of Yellow Jackets.
I love that. Anytime there's a fire in any show, it's that one Earth Kingdom guy. It's like, it's crazy.
Even if we see it, like in Evil Dead, we see fire happen. That he still did it somehow.
Yeah, again, he's just like off camera. He like trips and like he drops his like his box of matches.
What if someone lights a match on screen?
Again, it's like Ben in the first episode where he turns into Heat Blast. We think it was Ben shooting the fireballs, but again, the Earth Kingdom guy is just like having a cigarette off camera and he like throws it on the ground. He's like, "Oh fuck!"
When Ben actually shoots the fireballs, like, is that still them somehow?
Yeah. He actually drops the cigarettes and like it like actually blocks Ben's fireball.
I love
to do it. Yeah.
I just love this always. Even though there's no fucking feasible way they could have fucking done it, they still did it.
Yeah, cigarette 100% blocked the fireball. Like that's what I'm going with.
Do you think of that? Do you think of that Earth Kingdom guy was hold on trial by the Yellow Jackets? Do you think he still would? Do you think he would admit he burned the cabin down?
I'd be 100% like, oh no, there's the Fire Nation. We're not there yet. In the storm, when Ozai burned Zuko's face. Remember, it was off screen. We didn't actually see it. When Ozai was a burn Zuko, again, Earth Kingdom guy, off camera, like, oops, I dropped my cigarette. Oh god!
You definitely have to fucking remember to make that joke when we get to that episode. I hope you remember. Yeah. I hope you don't forget. All right, but that's the end of this video.
We got what, like 2 episodes left till we get to the storm?
Really, like 1. I know 2, yeah, because we haven't done Great Divide yet. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the end of this video. Anything you want to plug or promote before we get out of here?
No.
That's pretty much it for me. You know, check out my wrestling channel. AJ is going to be doing some wrestling stuff on there. We've got a nice wrestling guessing game about to happen.
I guess the only thing I'll plug is that hopefully we do more win or loses in the future. Again, this year, because we haven't done Death Note in a while, I would like to do Chief Yagami and Matsuda this year, like our Death Note stuff. Look forward to that.
Yeah. And, we have some... This is going to be a fun time for us. We're not doing any big projects right now, so we're going to do some more small things. We are going to do 1 episode of Danny Phantom because Guy Moon, the guy that composed the theme song for Danny Phantom, died in a car crash a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to do that to pay tribute to him type of thing. So,
yep.
So look forward to that. That's pretty much it, guys, and we will talk to you guys later.